This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remus.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. We got a big show today. Lots to talk about. Jets just finished up practice and are about to head out to St. Louis to take on the Blues tomorrow night, trying to keep their slim playoff hopes alive. No help last night. Nashville Predators got the win. They're now 4 up on the Winnipeg Jets. We'll dive into the wild card races in just a moment when Connor joins me on the show. I am fired up for tonight, though, gang. We are back with our WST poker tourney, Poker Open tonight, 8 p.m. All are invited. $30 buy-in. There is a $100 bounty on my head, $100 bounty on Jeff Hamilton's head. That's going to be going down at 8 over at coolbet.com. If you haven't played it before, go to Coolbet, click on the poker, and then go into tournaments, and you can just search WST. There's a little magnifying glass that'll pop up. Join us. Should be a lot of fun, as all the other ones have been, and I hope to see many of you regulars and some of you newbies out to see if you can grab the C note on the top of my dome. So that is tonight, and of course, it is the day before the Masters. I already have my night planned out. I'm going to grab a pie. I'm going to get live from the Masters on the tube. I'm going to fire up the poker game, follow the hockey games that are happening tonight. A big one, Oilers-Sharks. Sharks still very much in this wild card race as well. So we are all set. But and then tomorrow we'll be able to follow along. First round at the Masters from Augusta National. Speaking of the Masters, WST fan favorite Jeff Fineberg had a mega stream yesterday with like 20 guests. Might want to check that out before you finish up your picks and your pools. Fineberg is going to join me later on. And just while I'm mentioning Masters, our friends at Coolbet, along with our pal Pat Mayo, have a free $500 Masters pool. I just tweeted out the link. But if you're listening on the podcast, what you're going to want to do is go over to Coolbet on the main page, right at the bottom on the left. You'll see where it says Coolbet League. Click on that. It's just under sports, 3 down, says Coolbet League. Click on that. You'll see the Pat Mayo experience, free Masters pool. Go in there. Head-to-head matchups. You predict the scores of everyone, play against each other, and it's completely free and open to anybody outside of Ontario. So I will be getting a team in that. I would suggest you do as well. Absolutely no cost to do it. Oh, and while we're at it, we also set up a WST Masters pool, which is also free to enter. We'll get some swag from Coolbet, maybe a couple of our other sponsors for the winner. We'll put that in the chat. Actually, Connor, if you can, maybe just take a quick look into my my Twitter feed, but throw that in the chat with the link and just pin that up there. So get in the free $500 pool with Pat and the guys over at Coolbet, and make sure to fill out our box pool, which will put that up, and then you'll be ready to go for tomorrow. But of course, we're going to get into the hockey right away. With a big night last night in the National Hockey League. And unfortunately, no more help. It seems like the Jets got tons of help in the weeks leading up to the last 10 days or so to get them into a position that they were still relevant in the playoff race. The help hasn't been coming lately. And a big win by Nashville last night to jump back into that spot, 1 point ahead of the Los Angeles Kings. Listen, just before we bring in Connor Hrabchak, do want to thank all of our sponsors that make the show happen each and every day, the Winnipeg Jets. And I do believe we are sold out for Saturday for the WST section. I got our pal Gitch, Steinbach's second manliest man, hit me with a message last night saying he thought he just got the last 2 tickets. But regardless, try and get a seat in 316. We'll be there one more time. Would love to see all you WSTers out at what should be a real fun one on Saturday night with the Philadelphia Flyers, who had a huge win last night, coming into town for the final Saturday night game of the regular season. Also want to thank Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports. We'll get a Chud's Power Sports power pole a little bit later on today. Clean Line, plumbing, heating, and electrical. No real changes to the lines as the team gets out there. We'll hit that later on. Of course, Breezy Bend, golf season is here. Can't wait for the Masters. Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Manitoba Battery, St. Vital Dental Center, Uptown Alley, Rowley's Transfer, the Manitoba Building Trades, and the Manitoba Federation of Labor. as well as Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, and a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray surrounding the man who was the topic downtown post-practice. And that, of course, is Jonathan Toews, who was the Winnipeg Jets nominee for the Masterton Trophy. Connor Hrabchak was down at the rink today and joins me now to get going with the program. Connor, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing great, Huss. Doing great. I'm a busy day down at the rink today with Jonathan Toews. A lot of talk with him about the Masterton Trophy. Asked Kyle Connor about it as well. Scott O'Neill had some great insight too. We'll try and get some clips from today's skates. We can play that audio for people a little bit later on in the show. But a rare 2-day break for the Winnipeg Jets. 2 days without a game. There haven't been many of those this year. Haven't been many of those since the Olympic break for sure. And Jets and Blues tomorrow night. I know the Blues lost last night, but the Preds, which is probably the team you would want to lose if you were the Winnipeg Jets, if you had the choice between the Preds and the Blues, they won. They went into Anaheim and blew them out in that game. So, tough go for the Winnipeg Jets on the out-of-town scoreboard last night. Scott O'Neill talked about that today down at the skate as well. Fired up to be here for another day of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Let's do it.
Yeah, it was a as they said, we'll get into Toews in a few minutes because I kind of want to have that a larger conversation. And Sean Reynolds is going to join us as well. We'll obviously hit the playoff push as well as really looking ahead to the offseason and some big decisions, including one for both the team and for Jonathan Toews. But it was quite the night in the NHL last night. And, I mentioned Saturday's game against the Philadelphia Flyers. While so many of the other teams, Detroit Red Wings, Columbus Blue Jackets, have had a real tough time staying in the mix, the Philadelphia Flyers have come almost out of nowhere, Connor. And another big win last night. They come in to Winnipeg Saturday night as one of the hottest teams in the league. And, listen, the Jets will still be mathematically alive regardless of what happens over the course of the next 48 hours. That is going to be one heck of a matchup. I mean, I just remember, and I can't wait to have Rewicki on the show on Friday, being a real Philly guy and a guy that follows the Flyers. I mean, what was it, about 6 weeks ago that everyone was trying to run Rick Tocchet out of town because he was ruining Matvei Michkov? And all of a sudden, things are rolling for the orange and black. And they had one of the biggest wins of the night last night, considering what's happening going on in the East.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at Philly and they got Porter Martone, top 5 pick up there from Michigan State. His college season ended and they got him in. He scored his first career goal in overtime against the Bruins on the weekend. And then they go into New Jersey and leave no doubt. 5-1 win. Trevor Zegras with 2 goals, 3 points in the game. He's been awesome for the Philadelphia Flyers this year. Maybe he hasn't been hitting as many Michigans, so people aren't paying attention as much, but he's up to 25 goals on the year. He's having a great year. One of those young centers that was drafted super high, had a great World Juniors for Team USA all those years ago. And they're rolling. They're playing the best out of really any of those second wildcard teams right now because Columbus has fallen off. Ottawa's up and down. And how about this game last night, Huss? Columbus and Detroit. Huge playoff implications. Detroit's up 3-2 with under a minute left, and then Columbus ties it with 17 seconds left in regulation, sends it to overtime. It ends up going to a shootout, and Columbus actually ends up winning. So a huge point gained there for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They were staring down the barrel of not getting a point at all, and a team they're directly competing with getting 2. They end up tying it and then winning it in a shootout. So some crazy drama in the East last night in that wild card race for sure.
Well, and you know what I mean? Listen, we'll dive back to the West in a minute because, of course, that is of most importance to Winnipeg Jet fans. But and we've been talking for about 3 weeks about just how crazy everything has been in the East, and that hasn't really changed. But you wake up this morning and look at the Atlantic Division. Tampa Bay, Buffalo, Montreal all have played 78 games. The Habs come back to win last night. It's a 3-way tie at 102 points. And I don't know if there's anything that's a better example of the crazy things that we've had happen this year in the NHL. No one's surprised that Tampa Bay is there. Montreal, we thought could maybe be a playoff team. I don't think anyone had them tied with the Lightning. And then there's the Buffalo Sabres, who are second on account of tiebreaker. And it's crazy. The tiebreaker between Tampa Bay and Buffalo actually goes to regulation and overtime wins because they are both tied with 39 regulation wins. So right now, any of those three teams could win the Atlantic Division. The Pacific is still totally up for grabs. Any of those three teams, although it's looking more and more like it'll be Edmonton or Vegas over there. But the wild card race and I guess we have to include the Metropolitan race because that's where Philly is right now. Philly is sitting in third. And listen, if things can hold, we are going to get Pittsburgh, Philly in the first round of the playoffs, just like the old days. In fact, the old Patrick division matchup, Pittsburgh, Philly, and a potential Habs, Sabres, Adams division matchup. Count me in for that. But maybe the biggest win of the night outside of the Blue Jackets staying in the mix was the Ottawa Senators, who beat Tampa 6-2. Crazy back-to-back losses for Tampa. The big one, obviously, was the Buffalo game on Monday. But the Ottawa Senators, not dead yet, taking advantage of a team on the second end of a back-to-back. They got Jake Sanderson back in the lineup recently. He scored 2 goals last night. Brady Tkachuk with 4 assists. And the Sens still controlling their own destiny in that wild card, sitting just behind the Boston Bruins right now, who look pretty safe in wild card number 1 and will likely play the winner of the division with Tampa, Buffalo, and Montreal.
For sure. And Huss, you look at the East, so many teams are playing so well right now. Like you mentioned Ottawa, and their story really all year has been, well, can they get a save? And if they do, they're going to be one of the best teams in the league because their goaltending was in the absolute gutter. It was bottom 3 for the majority of the season. They've gone a little bit more goaltending. There's been a lot of drama just in general around that team this year, but they seem to have figured it out. And they go in and they beat Tampa, who, like you said, might win the Atlantic. And Ottawa's in wild card too. Like there's just so many good teams in the East. Pittsburgh, of course, has been great all year. Philly is now going on a run and kind of separating themselves in that Metropolitan race. And Montreal, you brought it up. And I don't know if it's fair to say that it's been quiet. They've been quietly good because they're Montreal. They're one of the biggest markets in the league. Nothing about them is quiet, but they might win the division. And so much talk about the Habs is like, oh, for the next decade, they're set because their whole core is young and they've got everyone on good contracts and they're going to be good for a long time. Well, heck, they might win the Atlantic and be good right now. They might be better than Tampa Bay in the regular season and all of that stuff. And obviously, going into the playoffs, I'd give Tampa a big advantage over Buffalo and Montreal just simply based off of experience going into those playoff series because, like I said, Montreal is one of the youngest teams in the National Hockey League. But Montreal, last year, they sneak into wild card 2. You're expecting them to build off of that season, of course, because the natural progression is that they'll get better every year. I don't know if people projected them potentially winning the Atlantic this early in kind of their rebuild that is clearly way ahead of schedule because they're playing some great hockey right now. So I'm fired up for the East. I know the focus is here on the West and we might get Dallas, Minnesota in the first round, all of that stuff, but we will. That matchup is actually locked in. First matchup locked in, Dallas versus Minnesota, but there's going to be some great matchups in the East as well.
Yeah, it is a slower night tonight in the NHL. The Sabres, though, are in MSG to take on the Rangers. They'll be looking to win to get into first place in their division and put the pressure on Tampa. You've got the Capitals and Leafs. The Caps are going to probably miss the playoffs and finish with more points than anybody in the Pacific Division, which is absolutely hilarious on a number of levels. We know where the Leafs are at right now. Maybe the biggest line ever is going to be iced. Did you see that Protas's brother has been called up?
Yeah.
The 6'6" Protas brothers playing with Tom Wilson. Wilson's the smallest guy on the line. That'll be interesting to see. And then, of course, the big one tonight is the Oilers and the Sharks because the Sharks are very much in this right now. Connor, if we look at the wild card race in the West, which are the Jets, of course, are trying to stay in. The Sharks are just 1 point ahead of Winnipeg, but the Sharks are 3 back of the Predators, and most importantly, they've got an extra game to be played. The Sharks still have 6 games left, including that final game a week tomorrow here in Winnipeg for what's going to be fan appreciation night. So with a win tonight over the Edmonton Oilers, the Sharks would actually leapfrog the LA Kings. They would be tied, but they, like everybody, has the tiebreaker against the Kings because they never win in regulation, and would be just 1 point back of the Nashville Predators, which essentially just reinforces what we've been saying for the last little bit. The Jets have absolutely no wiggle room right now. If they want to be playing meaningful games next week, they have to run the table. They got to beat the Blues tomorrow. They got to beat Philly. They got to beat Vegas, Utah, and hope that they still have an opportunity to get 2 points and make it matter against San Jose in that final game of the season. So a very tall task, a task that did get harder last night with Nashville's win. I think their money puck odds went from 8% to 6.4%. And maybe it takes a little bit of juice out of the game tomorrow night, at least from the home team side. But what is ironic about this is we talk about playoffs, Connor. Tomorrow's matchup between St. Louis and Winnipeg, who the Blues just 2 points back, but do have the tiebreaker on the Jets because of regulation wins, could end up being a game where the loser is actually the winner because neither team makes the playoffs. And whoever is in the team that doesn't come out, if it's a game tomorrow night, will actually be the one that picks higher in the draft in Buffalo in June.
That's the funny part of all of this talk, right, Huss? It's like, well, you want the Jets to win, but if they're not going to win out, then you probably want them to lose, right? Like it's such a weird time, down the stretch here with the tall task ahead for the Winnipeg Jets, like you said. And yeah, I mean, LA and Nashville going to a 3-point game the other night. That's not ideal. Nashville winning. That's not ideal. What about an underrated race? It involves the wild card. Utah right now has 88 points in 77 games played. They have a game in hand on the entire Pacific Division. All three of the Pacific Division teams have 88 points at 78 games played. So we might see a scenario in which Utah, as wildcard one, would have won the Pacific if they were in the Pacific. It's just such a weird year in that sense. And Anaheim has been really sliding in that Pacific race. You talk about Edmonton against the Sharks tonight. They're actually in first in that division now. They're kind of in the driver's seat. They have the tiebreaker over Vegas, but in terms of the wild card, yeah, huge game for San Jose tonight. Obviously, LA, we've talked about their schedule heading forward. It's Charmin soft. They get Vancouver a couple times, Calgary, and then St. Louis. You talked about them. Last night was kind of the dagger for them. I know they have the tiebreaker over everyone. And yeah, maybe if they run the table and they're tied with someone else, they could get in. But them losing and Nashville winning puts them 6 points back of Nashville. Yes, St. Louis does have a game in hand, but there's not much runway for them to really catch everyone in this race with only 5 games remaining in their season. So it's
the only reason that St. Louis is still relevant at all is the fact that it is on account of their tiebreaker, but their loss last night took them to 0.5%. And essentially, at this point, I mean, the best case scenario for them winning 5 in a row gets them to 88 points. Nashville, obviously, if they could get 5 points of a possible 8 remaining, would pass them. But they do have that tiebreaker. So, I mean, both teams certainly will have something to play for tomorrow night. Winnipeg Jets just needing to focus on their own business. Now, we're going to get into Jonathan Toews in a minute. But I know you were down at the skate today. The team was off yesterday, coming off of the Sunday game. We're still waiting, and we might have a little bit of Scott Arniel a little later on. I imagine the majority of the talk was about the Masterton nomination for Jonathan Toews today. But as far as getting into the roster lineup and whatnot, I guess we would expect to see pretty much no changes to the clean lines based on practice today heading into tomorrow's game.
Yeah. I'm not expecting any changes. The lines were exactly the same. We still had Miller and Nyquist in yellow non-contact jerseys, and still no Elias Salamonson or Morgan Barron skating for the Winnipeg Jets quite yet. So I think it's safe to assume that tomorrow's lineup will look exactly like the one that won the Winnipeg Jets the game on Monday night. But like you said, a lot of the talk today down at the rink was on Jonathan Toews, who's the Winnipeg Jets nominee for the Bill Masterton Trophy. And we spoke to Toews himself. We spoke about his journey to come back to the NHL. He spoke about this season and his durability, the fact that he's played in every single game so far and what that means to him. And then obviously Scott Arniel talked about how, you know, Toews earlier in the season was playing a lot. Now he's not playing as much. He's more in a bottom six, maybe even fourth line role, but how he's still contributing to this team, how he's still contributing behind the scenes with the younger players and the leadership and all of that stuff. So some great stuff from down at the rink today. And we also spoke to Kyle Connor, who was very complimentary of Jonathan Toews and what he's done for him this year and the leadership, adding to the locker room, all of that stuff. So kind of a Jonathan Toews is Captain Serious, right? He doesn't really get emotional, but it was good to see him reflect on the journey to fight back to the NHL and now what it means to him that he's been nominated for this award and has played in every single game this year for the Jets.
Well, that word reflection, I think, is really appropriate right now, because I think there'll be reflection from him individually as far as to his next move. And there's absolutely going to be reflection from the organization about, you know, the signing of Toews, but also the season overall removed from Jonathan Toews. And we're going to get to all that coming up in the next segment right away. In fact, you know, I'm going to put this to the chat right now before we get into Toews, because, I mean, I'll make some arguments or present both sides, but I am interested in your thoughts. Now, I'll preface this with, obviously, the money would be less and potentially the role would be less. Or maybe more about where he is right now playing in the fourth line. But the why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly McGillivray is simply, if the price was right on a 1-year term, would you be interested in bringing Jonathan Toews back for next season? So give us your thoughts on that in the chat. We will get to that coming up in just a second. Want to thank a couple of our sponsors, and then we'll dive in on the future of Jonathan Toews with the Winnipeg Jets right here on WST.
Hey, Bob, you hearing the news?
I can't listen to the news, Daryl.
This is different.
Oh, it's so negative.
Not this time. Manitoba's got these new jobs agreements. And when the government builds things like new schools and hospitals, they'll hire Manitoba workers first.
Really?
Creating good jobs with union standards and more apprenticeships for Manitobans. And we'll get rid of those out-of-province license plates on job sites.
Keeping our money working for Manitobans, eh?
You betcha.
Well, that's how it should work.
I knew you'd like it.
A message from Manitoba's Building Trades and Federation of Labor.
Spring into good times at Uptown Alley and eat, drink, and play at the most fun spot in the city. You'll enjoy 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, a state-of-the-art arcade, and good times playing laser tag as well. And in addition, Uptown Alley features incredible food and drink options at their bistro. Pop down to Uptown Alley with your group or make it a party. It's the best place in Winnipeg for birthday parties for kids, teens, or adults, and an amazing spot for corporate events where you just simply pick your activities, any of your add-ons, what you'd like to eat, and the Uptown Alley staff takes care of everything else. For more information, go to uptownalley.ca, book a lane at 488-0000, or pop down and see him at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Got a move coming up? Lean on our friends and longtime sponsors at Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving and storage in Manitoba. Now into their 7th decade with over 60 years of experience, family owned and operated. Head over to their website at rollies.com to find out all about their services serving Winnipeg and southern Manitoba. In the top right corner, you can click on Request an Estimate. Use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then simply let them know when you're moving, where you're moving to, and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly and get you a great quote to get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they've been famous for now for over 60 years in Winnipeg. For all your moving needs, make it Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more and request an estimate today on your next move at Rollies.com. Has it been a minute since you've been to the dentist? If it is, our pal Dr. Terry and the wonderful staff at St. Vital Dental Center would love to see you. They've been taking care of generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans in St. Vital for years, and have now moved into a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment. and convenient free parking right behind the building. They'll handle customers and clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to surgeries like dental implants. Dr. Terry and the gang can absolutely do it all. We'll do it with a smile on their face and make your smile look even better than it's ever been. Go to stvitaldental.ca online to make an appointment. Pop into St. Vital Dental, get that girl taken care of, and tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. All right. We're going to talk Jonathan Toews right now. And, of course, the big news today is that he was the Jets nominee for the Masterton Trophy. Do want to mention that this month is brought to you by Truck Month, which is on now at GMC. If you want something reliable, tough, and ready for whatever the schedule throws at you, that's the 2026 Sierra 1500 Pro Graphite Crew Cab in a nutshell. And it can be yours for 0% financing for 72 months with a factory 2-inch lift, off-road suspension, and a 5.3-liter V8. This is one ready for anything truck. Don't miss out. Get to your local GMC dealer and take advantage of Truck Month before it ends. Connor, before we brought in Rennie, I wanted to toss this around with you because I have really mixed feelings on this. I think it's very clear that the Winnipeg Jets made a bet, a gamble, if you will, that Jonathan Toews would be able to play at a really high level. I mean, he started off the season as the number 2 center, and it took a good 30, 35 games for them to realize that it just wasn't working, move him down in the lineup. And, I think it is a spot that he's been more suitable for. So, I mean, we can talk about the offseason. Who knows who else they were trying to get to come in and fill that spot. They felt Toews was their best option. It didn't work out, and the team is where they are right now. This is certainly far from just on Jonathan Toews, but we spent so much time talking about secondary scoring. That second line for a long time did not have much juice to it, and I think that's a big factor in why the biggest question mark is that position right now with the Winnipeg Jets moving into the offseason, how you fill it. But at the same point, I mean, I love the Jonathan Toews comeback story. I, like so many people, were excited to see and just happy for him personally to be able to come back to the league. There was plenty of interest in his services. The fact that he chose Winnipeg, I think, was great for the organization. And there have been some benefits from it. And you can maybe speak to this from listening to Scott O'Neill today, as well as so many of his teammates. I mean, a beloved guy, a guy that I'm sure off the ice helps in a big, big way. And especially if you're bringing in a bunch of younger players, having a champion like Jonathan Toews in the room doing what he does each and every day cannot be a bad thing. The other side of that argument, though, is that even if he's playing a fourth line role next year, is he blocking or taking the place of a younger player that needs that ice time, needs that experience, as that is the direction that the Winnipeg Jets are going? I mean, best case scenario, he plays for another year or other years. So as I said, I asked the folks for the Why Not question today, would you entertain coming back? And I have no idea where the organization is on that. I think they're thankful that he was a part of this team this season. Very clear that he's got the utmost respect from everybody in that room and in the organization right to the top. Certainly the fact that they didn't go down that road of, even really discussing a trade at the deadline. So to me, it's a predicament, because I do think that a lot of the young players could actually benefit from having Toews around. But at the same time, I'm not sure that, he'd be in the lineup each and every night. Does that work for him? So to me, there's probably some long conversations that need to be had, and, to use your word, reflecting on the season. But to me, it's one of the more interesting topics as we get closer to the offseason, and certainly very topical today with him getting the Masterton nominee. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like the way you outlined that, because I think there's good arguments for and against it. Obviously, if Jonathan Toews is going to be coming back next year, it has to be as the fourth line center. I think we can all agree on that, where he played second line center this year. Yes, did he look better as kind of the season went on? Sure. But asking him to play 18 minutes a night at, well, what'll it be next year? 38 years old. That's not a good bet. And we saw that this year. So I think as a fourth line center who's going to specialize in faceoffs and maybe even kill some penalties and go on the second power play unit. And hey, we even saw him fill in on the top unit and they had a good night the other night. Being a fourth line guy that can help out in the room and win those key faceoffs and help out on some special teams areas and not be a complete liability 5-on-5. Sure. Yeah. Like for the right price, like you said, Huss, totally. I think those are good arguments towards it. And I think the good arguments against it are, we look at Brad Lambert, we look at Elias Salamonson, we look at, those young players that have come up and are looking more confident by the game and helping this team win, and they're younger and they're faster. And what's going to happen with Brayden Yager next year? Is he an AHL player for the whole year? Because you got Scheifele, you got Lowry, you got Barron, and then you got Toews. So if you sign Jonathan Toews as your fourth line center, that probably means no Brayden Yager next year. And Brayden Yager next year is going to be the same age Brad Lambert is right now. He's the same age as Elias Salamonson. They're both 21. Why can't Brayden Yager make an impact on next year's Winnipeg Jets team, right? So I think there's good arguments for and against it. As a fourth line center, for the right price, I could see why you would be in on it, but I'd also see why you can look at the Winnipeg Jets, who are clearly a better team post-deadline because they got younger and faster. Look at the best forward prospect in the system being a center who's possibly ready for NHL minutes next year, and also make a solid argument against it as well.
It's funny you bring up Yager, because to me, he's a real key part of, well, hopefully he's a key part of the discussion. I mean, I'll preface it with saying that with 9 goals in 66 games and 29 points, much like Brad Lambert,
no one's producing on the Moose though. Like I'm almost ready to just throw out counting stats. Like, I don't know, man.
Well, for sure. But I mean, Brad Lambert did at the beginning of his time there. And
for sure.
Listen, the Barlow season's really concerning. Now, if we just want to give them a pass, sure. But I mean, like, I've watched a bunch of Moose games this year. I've got a lot of time for his 200-foot game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that Brayden Yager ends up being a top 6 player in the NHL. And the irony of this conversation and the decision that, you'd be making is that I'm not sure there's a player in the organization that would benefit from being around Jonathan Toews more on a regular basis than Brayden Yager. The question is, though, is there a spot for both of them in the lineup? Now, it is incredible that Toews has played every game this year. Like, that is the one thing that, and I think part of this Masterton nomination, with him coming back, has been the durability. Now, we can talk about how he's played at times and how he's been really good, and other times has sort of not been at that level. And does that change next year? I guess we'll see. I mean, I think everything's on the table. What if he's committed to it and does another full off season? Could he be better? Absolutely. I mean, I think there is that possibility. And, I think we saw, just on Monday night against Seattle, some of the veteran savvy that he has, still the ability to win battles, and certainly to win faceoffs, which is so important, and a big reason why he went onto the power play, and boom, they score 3 goals after being ice cold for so long. But you also wouldn't want to have Brayden Yager kind of learning from Toews in the press box, or vice versa, going in and going out. Like, if part of the succession plan was to have both of those guys on the team, maybe even have Yager playing wing a little bit with Toews, if we're talking about that sort of fourth line, I would certainly have time for it. But I do wonder at what point the benefit of the experience and working with them in practice and all of that, which is very, very important, kind of becomes less than needing to have him in the lineup every night playing a regular role, assuming he's able to make the team next year. And let's face it, that is big if right now.
And let me also ask you this, Huss, because I lined out the centers: Scheifele, Lowry, Barron, Toews. But isn't the ideal version of next year's Winnipeg Jets team Scheifele, insert second line center here, Lowry, Barron? You know, like, isn't the ideal version of next year's Jets team Morgan Barron is your fourth line center?
I would
Like,
say
I think
this.
that's
I would probably. I mean,
doesn't have to be
if you
Jaeger
have no other
either.
centers, but to me, if you got someone to take that second line center role and you took care of that issue,
Right. Somehow.
to me, having Barron play with Adam Lowry on that third line
on the wing
makes more sense. Because as I said, I think the Lowry line, as perfectly constructed, has those two guys together and plays more than Morgan Barron would be on the fourth line. Like, I want more Morgan Barron next year. And if that means he's on the wing, I'm fine with that. I mean, heck, there may be some times where we could see Adam Lowry move to the wing if Morgan Barron was really excelling at the center position. The bottom line is, if Lowry's in that top line, top nine, Morgan Barron needs to be in it. Now, some would say you fill that in and maybe it's Morgan Barron's line that's playing more. I think we all hope that the Lowry's impact will be far greater next year based on a better off season, not having surgery, coming in healthy and all that. And I know the organization is counting on that. But if all of that is being said, and maybe we're talking about Toews, Braden Yeager, somebody else, Danny Zhilkin, who of course has been in the mix at that point.
Right.
I mean, to me, having Morgan Barron play up in the lineup, whether it's the third line, whether it's the second line at times on the wing and playing a big part in PK, all of that would be big. But I'm interested, continue getting your thoughts in the chat on this one because, Toews is such a special and unique player. I mean, if we were just simply basing it on what we saw on the ice this year, I think it's probably pretty obvious based on his age and all that. But it is a unique circumstance. It was his first year back after 3 off. If he wants to and he is committed to coming back and being better and potentially being, a bottom 6 player for the Winnipeg Jets, I think there's a lot of benefits to it. If the money makes sense, I mean, it wouldn't be the same dollars that it would be this year. And also it would give him the opportunity to sort of go out, on his own terms. You were around today. I mean, and you've been around a lot. I mean, he doesn't really speak about this ever. And I don't think it was really covered today, but, part of me, I wonder whether I kind of lean towards he would want to play next year because I think this season, the way it went personally, as well as for the team, would leave you wanting more. Certainly from the team, they're wanting more. And I think from a guy that has been as good as he's been for so long, that would be a situation that he would like to come back. And, if that opportunity was there, it would have to be sort of with different frameworks, I would say. But I could see there being a want on both sides. I mean, if you had to lean either way on Toews, just from what you've heard him speak to the media about his comeback in the season that he's had, where are you at on that?
Oh, that's tough. If I had to lean, I'd think I'd lean more towards he's going to play in the NHL next year, whether it's with the Winnipeg Jets or he signs another 1-year deal elsewhere. I do think, he'll feel that he can go another year kind of thing. It is funny, or not funny. It's interesting. Scott O'Neill did say today that in terms of all the years for Jonathan Toews to come back in the state that he did, 2 years off, needing that rhythm and the conditioning and all that stuff. He said this was probably the worst year with the condensed schedule and having to play 3 games in 4 nights with travel and just how condensed everything was. He said this is probably the worst year for Toews to come back. He kind of hoped that he'd come back next year so that he could space it out a little bit more. We know the season's going to start earlier next year. It's not going to be as long of a break for the All-Star game than it is going to be for the Olympics, right? It's not going to be a full 3-week break and cramming in all of these games. So to me, I think Jonathan Toews, he's such a competitive guy, captain series. We know all that stuff. If I had to lean one way, I think he's going to come back next year. I don't think this is his last year in the NHL. It'll be interesting to see if that's with the Winnipeg Jets or if he does end up saying, you know what, I came back. It was awesome. And this is it for me. But Scott O'Neill even admitted himself that the schedule didn't help with Jonathan Toews this year. And obviously Murat Atesh from The Athletic then asked, load management. We kind of thought that would be on the table for the Winnipeg Jets if the schedule was such an issue. And Scott O'Neill just said, well, he felt earlier in the year that he needed to get the rhythm and the conditioning and the games under him. And then by the time Lowry came back, Toews wasn't playing as much. So there wasn't a need to load manage him. that was something we talked about really all year. But if I had to lean one way, Huss, I think Toews plays next year somewhere.
Yeah, and I think that's important to note because, I mean, I think that the idea to being in on Toews coming back would be, in probably a fourth line role, unless, I mean, hey, best case scenario, you pencil him in for the fourth line role and he comes back looking like he's 10 years younger and plays great and, pushes someone else out of a job because of performance.
I feel like we said the same thing last year, though. Like that's what we said last year, right? Yeah, like
no, listen, 100%. I mean, that's what you hope to happen. But I mean, he started that and they didn't have any other real option as we saw.
Options, yeah.
I'm saying, and like T-Well, I think T-Well had a good comment here. It's all about that second line. We need a second line that's at least as fraction as dangerous as our first to give other teams at least one more option to worry about. I agree with that 100%. And as I say, that's not involving a plan that goes running it back with Jonathan Toews in the middle of the second line again, hoping for a different result. I guess what I'm saying is if you planned, like put it this way, if they planned this year for that and had a guy for that and Toews is in the fourth line and it stayed there, we might be having a different conversation, but they went 35, 40 games with him and then had to make the changes and make those moves. But as I said, I think that if you continued the relationship between the player and the team, it would have to be with a knowledge that as a veteran player, he's there not only to help the team on the ice, but really to be a guy that could help some of these younger players that would presumably be in the mix next year be better, both at practice, off the ice, all of those things. And I think there'd have to be a clear delineation between, based on performance, from having a spot in the lineup each and every day, as opposed to, maybe playing one and being out one. And obviously injuries and availability all comes into that. But I do think about a guy like Yeager that obviously didn't have the season that I think everyone was hoping that he would have. And who knows, maybe you can change that with a good playoffs. Congrats to the Moose. They're clinched. They're in. But knowing that Toews would come in, like, I don't think he's going to be that game breaker at any point of the rest of his career. So if you have a guy that can contribute and keep it up and have positive results on a fourth line, great. But again, the worry is that if you have another younger player that's ready for prime time that could be in that role, does that stunt their growth and do exactly what you don't want to do? And that is add to the time that some of these guys can contribute. So to me, it's a really interesting question.
Yeah, it's very interesting and one that we'll be analyzing throughout the offseason. And a lot of it comes back to what this season has been for this Winnipeg Jets team, right? Like you bring in Pearson and Nyquist and Toews, and you bring back Shen after the deadline last year and all this stuff. And you lean into this like veteran Stanley Cup experience thing. And the Jets are the second best team in the West since the deadline, since they moved off of those players, since Toews went down the lineup, since Salamonson came up, since Lambert came up and is looking better by the game. There's almost an element of like, do we want to do this all over again next year with Brayden Yager? And look, I mentioned it earlier. I don't get how you look at the Manitoba Moose stats page and really everyone, you don't even have to talk about prospects. Samuel Fogimo scored 43 goals for the Ontario Reign a few years ago in the AHL. He's at like 17 right now. Like everyone, their counting stats are down. They're third last in the AHL in goals, and yet they're a good team. They just clinched the playoffs, right? But Colby Barlow has 4 goals. That guy scored 1 billion goals in junior. Brayden Yager, we can all look at his counting stats and be like, well, he's maybe not having the best year. But why is everyone not having the best year offensively on the Manitoba Moose? Like, I think that question needs to be asked as well, especially Barlow. Like, I had someone look on Instat for me. He's playing 11 minutes a night. And I know there's the argument of like, oh, well, you got to earn your ice time when he has 4 goals in 59 games. He's not exactly blowing the doors off. But I just feel like they're rolling 4 lines down there. It's not working. They're third last in the AHL in goals. And yeah, we can all look here and say like Brad Lambert has only 13 points in 34 AHL games. But then you come up to the NHL, you actually watch the games, and lo and behold, he's making an impact for this team. So I don't know. The Moose this year are a weird case study for me.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? And I'll be interested. We'll ask Rennie about this when he joins us in a few minutes. I mean, as I say, at the end of this year, there needs to be some serious investigation at a number of levels. I mean, where is the scouting right now compared to where it was 5 years ago when they were hitting on all these picks? And I mean, probably the biggest question is what is happening with the younger players at the American Hockey League level? Like, I know they didn't want to repeat the last 2 years where the team was terrible. I mean, they didn't make the playoffs.
Right.
They were basically out in January, and you're playing out the stretch. And I mean, that's not good for anybody. And I know they were committed to being better this year, and they've done it. Now, what they've done is become a way more defensive team, and maybe that was in the model of the Jets the last couple of years, that were the best defensive team in the league. And we're teaching these guys can score, they can play, but what they're learning right now is our model. And trust me, when they come to the NHL, they'll be way more prepared to help the team and not be liabilities like often young players are. Hopefully that's the case, but we're going to need to see some examples of that. So far, so good with Brad Lambert, I think, in his time right now. And listen, I've been pretty impressed with Danny Zhilkin when he's been out there. I've liked what Parker Ford has done. But when we're talking about first-round picks, first-round picks that are playing night in and night out at the American Hockey League level should not be in single digits in goals. And obviously there's questions on the players, but there's also questions on how these players are being managed, what's going on with that team. And I do wonder whether there'll be some changes. I mean, listen, I think changes are on the table, or at least should be on the table at a bunch of levels of the organization. But while we obsess about what's happening with the NHL club each and every day, there's no doubt that big time questions are going to be asked about the development process, the development half after we get to the drafting half, because if both of those things don't hit, the Winnipeg Jets are going to have a real tough time competing in the National Hockey League.
Yeah. And
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll just wrap up. But yeah, people are giving their thoughts in the chat. Keep it coming, folks. We'll get to Rennie in just a moment here. But I know this question started off with Toews, and it's kind of become an organizational discussion here, which I guess is fair when you talk about Jonathan Toews. But Brad Lambert, I think is a good talking point here, because again, he only has 13 points in 34 AHL games this year, but in less than half the games, he's tripled Gus Nyquist in goals already. So it's we could talk about making an impact at the AHL level. Brad Lambert isn't blowing the doors off in the AHL, so therefore he's not ready and doesn't deserve a call up. That is something we did hear all season long, and now he's come up and in 16 games since the Olympic break has a couple goals, a couple assists. He's making an impact in similar minutes to what Gus Nyquist was playing all year, right? So it's more of a question of, in the AHL, do their stats maybe blow the doors off? Maybe not, but can they make it more of an impact than one goal in 51 games from a guy you signed in free agency? Probably. What would Gus Nyquist do in the AHL this year? Would he have 13 points in 34 games?
Dude,
listen,
I mean, comparing anything,
I don't know.
Comparing anything to Gus Nyquist is a waste of time. It's
but
the worst.
Already, he was bad in the AHL by counting stat metrics, and then he comes up to the NHL and he's more impactful than a guy the Jets paid $3.5 million for in the offseason. So where's the disconnect there?
I think we could probably say that about 90% of the forwards on the Moose, to be perfectly honest, would have done I mean, you know how hard it is to play as much as Nyquist has been with the players that he's played with this year and have one goal? I mean, listen, that's what I'm saying. Comparing anything to the most disastrous free agent signing in the 15-year history of Jets 2.0 is tough. And here's the thing, just while we bring up Gus Nyquist, if Nyquist had even just been average, would we be talking as much about Toews and what he did? Because I mean, Toews is going to finish with double-digit goals, probably 30-odd points. And when we were thinking about him as a second-line center, we thought, what would be really good? A 50-point season? He's played basically the second half of the year on the third or the fourth line. I mean, those numbers, while not great, aren't that far off of what you would probably expect from a player that, was in that sort of bottom six. Again, we know what happened in the first half, but I mean, the Nyquist signing, replacing Ehlers, which was such a massive hole. I mean, it's just devastating for so many reasons. And, as I said, they obviously weren't ready to give a younger player the chance to go into that Ehlers role and grab it. They figured they needed a veteran. And this has happened with a bunch of other teams. Oh, we're so close. We just need to get more playoff ready on that. And then you get into the 82 games to get to the playoffs and you realize that your team isn't close to what it was last year. And that's a big, big part of it. So I don't know. As I said, it gives us plenty to talk about on WST.
Plenty.
Once we get through these next couple of weeks and see what happens when it comes to the playoffs. But lots of great quotes. I see one from the Awesome Miner 99. I really want to see playoff Toews on the Jets. If he was open to coming in and out of the lineup, he would be like picking up a veteran player at the deadline. And here's the other thing. And Issue Boy Bruce says, move 62-7, Nino and Vlad. They've served the Jets well enough, but it's time to move on, IMO. I mean, there's no doubt that they need to change that veteran group on it. And whether it's moving off of Nino and Vlad a little earlier, I mean, that's a big thing. Like at a certain point, if you have Nino back and you have Vlad back and you're bringing Toews back, Morgan Barron's going to be back. And Barron's obviously not quite as veteran as those other guys.
Want Koepke back.
People absolutely want Koepke back. Okay, sure. Well, there's only so many spots in the lineup. So there will be some tough decisions based on that. And I tell you what, I'd have a lot more time for talking about a potential Toews return if, as Issue Boy Bruce said, there was a couple of the other veterans that had moved on and you still have the opportunity. Because that, to me, is the best case scenario. If Toews can play, he can play a role on a team in the bottom six, be a great influence on younger players that have the chance to play as well and that are in the lineup and on the bench every day. That's something I could maybe wrap my head around. But at a certain point, if you've got contractual obligations to the other guys and they're not going anywhere and they're going to be back, you're looking a lot like the team that is very likely going to miss the playoffs. Rennie's going to join us. Can't wait to ask him these topics. We will do that coming up next, right after these on WST. Princess Auto is a proud sponsor of Winnipeg Sports Talk, and in a lot of ways synonymous with Winnipeg. Headquartered here in the Peg, founded here in Winnipeg, and now serving Canadians coast to coast with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So while we wait for the Bombers to kick off, get ready for spring. Those projects on your list with great deals throughout the month waiting for you at your local Princess Auto, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West in the city, out in Brandon. And you can always shop online 24 hours a day at princessauto.com. Spring is just around the corner, and our friends at Chud's Power Sports up in Gimli, Manitoba's power sports superstar, are ready to get this snow out of here. But before we do that, great end-of-season deals on sleds and snowmobiles that you can check out. But as we get excited for the snow to leave, great preseason deals on motorcycles of all brands, the best in ATVs and side-by-sides, not to mention golf carts for the summer up ahead as well. And it doesn't stop there. Amazing RV options for you to take advantage of the summer, and so many options when it comes to boats as well, in addition to outboard motors from Suzuki and Mercury. The best deals in town. That's how they've been in business as Manitoba's power sports superstore for 80 years. Pop out and see him in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231, and shop online today at their website at chudspowersports.com. April and spring are here, and Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery are kicking it off strong with their Spring Power event. Right now, you can save big on the batteries that you actually need this season. Lawn tractor batteries starting at just $37.50. RV and deep cycle batteries from $69.50, and heavy duty power like Group 27 and 78 DT starting at $89.50. Need serious cranking power? Check out their 13-inch stud post battery, $94.50 while supplies last. All in stock and all priced to move. Visit Manitoba Battery on the north side on Logan Avenue, on the south side on Dovercourt Drive, and get powered up for spring at Manitoba Battery, powering what matters. Check them out online today at manitobabattery.com. All right. Always love conversations with Izzy the Brains, Izzy the Beauty of KNR. You can judge for yourself. That's a second why not question of the day. All I know is that Izzy WST fan favorite Sean Reynolds of Sportsnet joins us now. Randy, what's up, man? Great to have you back on the program.
Great to be back, my friend. How are you?
I am well. How was Saturday night in Seabus? You and Ken both in Columbus for that game, and of course the reunion with our old buddy Bones.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. I talked about it a little bit on the podcast. The NHL is a better place with Rick Bowness back in it. He's the original kind of, Ken always used to love talking about truth serum, and you got the guy in here who administers truth serum wherever he absolutely goes. Rick Bowness is a fun guy to talk to for that, because he's not pulling any punches. He's not hiding anything. He had this great line where we asked him, why he's able to kind of come in and have the conversations that he has with players. And he said, like, I've been retired twice. I'm not here to manage things. I'm here to come in because I want to be here. And if I want to have direct conversations with people, I'm going to have direct conversations with people. I think he's selling himself short. Rick Bowness, I think, is the ultimate coach who's got the ability to like kind of tear strips off his players and have his players completely and entirely realize he's doing it because he cares, right? He's that fatherly figure that he's going to tie into you. And he's not doing it to be a jerk. And he's not doing it to save his own job or save his own skin. He's doing it because it's the right thing to do. And he doesn't mind having tough conversations. And we're going to have tough conversations together. It's great to see that back in the league. Really did help Columbus for a while there. I know they finally turned things around with a win in their last game. It's looking tough for them. But just the fact that team, like the Winnipeg Jets, are in the playoff conversation says a lot about the job that he's done there.
Hey, I got to ask you one other behind-the-scenes question, re-TV, before we get into like our regular Jets talk. I don't know whether this is the answer. I would bet that it is, or it has to be. But in the first period, we dropped the puck with 12 minutes, 10 seconds left, and there was not another whistle. Does that change things TV-wise? Like, what's happening behind the scenes as we get to 10 minutes and you realize, oh my God, the intermission is about to start? Does that throw a big-time curveball? And can you ever remember a quicker game than we saw on Saturday night?
Yeah, so for me, basically, when it gets around 12 minutes in a period and 8 minutes in a period, that the first whistle after that, there's going to be a commercial break, right? It varies a little bit, but it's around that in my head. Oh, it's the 12-minute mark, get ready. And that's kind of when I'm doing as a host and the way that I host, that's kind of my time to shine, because I come with behind-the-scenes stories and kind of a little bit of, Jets focused, a little bit more analysis on what's happening. So, for example, a couple games, a couple hockey night in Canada ago, the Winnipeg Jets had one of these goals against the Vancouver Canucks where Brock Besser kind of casually iced the puck near the end of the second period. And I'm thinking in my head, geez, this is a problem. The Jets are really good at capitalizing on these situations. Sure enough, Jonathan Toews wins the draw. Mark Scheifele scores. So I go to work in behind the scenes, kind of showing all the times the Winnipeg Jets have done this throughout the year and just kind of telling the lesson. You're Brock Besser. You can't casually ice it there, right? So those are the things I'm doing behind the scenes. And those whistles and those commercial breaks give us the opportunity to get the ducks in a row to tell those kind of stories. But a lot of times, I don't think it's that big of a deal, because when the game takes over, that's how you have a good game. And so a lot of times when you're not hearing from me, it's because the hockey on the ice is so frenetic, so good, that there's no need to hear from me. I'm there to add to the broadcast, to hopefully take it to another level. But sometimes hockey's hockey. That's what people are there to watch. So the opportunity to just kind of roll with it usually means the players are taking care of it for me.
It was just so funny. I mean, I was at a bar watching the game, and as soon as the game ended, they switched over to the other games that started at the exact same time. One had 9.5 minutes left. The Leaf Kings game had 14.5 minutes left and went for like another 40 minutes. It was it was something else. But obviously the team got a nice win on Monday night against the Kraken to stay alive. But as we expected, I mean, they had a lot of good fortune there on a couple weekends with the scoreboard breaking in their way in each and every game. Sean, now it is not doing that. It is breaking the other way. Guaranteed 3-point games back-to-back between the Kings and Preds. Nashville's win last night. San Jose's got it together. And the crazy thing is right now that, we were kind of looking at the final 7 games and seeing what was possible. Said, well, I think even running the table, it still might not get it done. The bottom line is the Jets have absolutely no outs, no wiggle room heading into St. Louis tomorrow.
Yeah, let's be clear. The numbers tell us the Jets shouldn't be here, right? And it had nothing to do with the idea of how the Jets played. Good on them that they've picked things up. They're one of the best teams in the Western Conference since that Olympic break. They shouldn't have been here because it took a catastrophic collapse by not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5 teams to get the Winnipeg Jets into a spot where we're even talking about them at this stage. And that's the teams like Seattle and LA had really lost things. And San Jose went on a terrible jag for a while there. And Nashville had as well. And so you take a look at all the teams around them. The reason they're where they are is because the numbers told us it shouldn't have happened that way, and yet it did. I always love to say, based on the bounces that they got last season, on what you saw with them in that Game 7 against St. Louis Blues, the hockey gods love the Winnipeg Jets. And it's happening again this year. Hey, even that game against Seattle, it's a tight game. I think they would have beat Seattle either way, but the Jets needed to get the power play going. Well, how about 2 absolutely lucky bounces that go your way on the second and third power play goal? And now all of a sudden you're up 3-1 against a team that can't score goals and can't get back into games. Now they've got to open up, and it allows you to run up the score on them. Things as I see it have turned here. The Jets have benefited from a pretty good schedule, but they've also benefited from the idea that all the good teams, for the most part, that the Jets have had to play found themselves in these really weird positions. Vegas had lost 7 of 10 games and was about to fire its coach. That's when the Jets got them. The Jets got Columbus earlier in the year when Columbus was struggling, and then Columbus was one of the best teams in the league for a while and then fell off and lost 7 of 8 games. That's when the Jets got them. Colorado, one of the games that they beat them was in the worst kind of stretch of hockey that they've played the entirety of the season. I know they lost to Dallas, but they lost to Dallas when Dallas had lost 7 of 8 games. This has changed now. Like it feels like the hockey gods gave the Jets a pat on the back and said, you guys can do this. But now it feels like they've said, if you're going to do this now, you got to earn it the old-fashioned way. Because you take a look at what's happening now. St. Louis is one of the best teams in the league over the last little while. The Jets take them on. Philadelphia is absolutely firing on all cylinders. That's who they play on Saturday. And then after that, it looks like the coaching change has done at least the coaching bump in Vegas, where they've won 4 straight games. That's who the Jets are going to get. Utah's been sticking. And then the last game is against San Jose, who seems to have woken up and are could very well be playing for a spot there. So forget the hockey gods. The Jets, if they're going to get over the playoff line, and if 2 weeks, Huss, we're talking about the Jets having made the playoffs, they will have absolutely earned it on their own merits. No teams inexplicably walking in to play the Jets when they've fallen flat on their face and can't get up. No bounces here and there. The Winnipeg Jets are going to have to earn it the old-fashioned way, which is why, as you say it, it's 3 points. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if the Jets lose to St. Louis tomorrow, and if the Nashville Predators win their next game, now you're 6 points back with 8 to play. Those numbers that's a near impossible hill to climb. So it's a tough stretch the Jets have here for their last 5 games.
Yeah, it's actually 4 now after the Preds win over the Ducks last night. 3 for the Kings. And then, if the Sharks win tonight, they're also 3. And Nashville, it's kind of interesting. Nashville's got 84 right now. Jets have 80. They both have 27 regulation wins. They both have 32 regulation and overtime wins. But
Right.
if the Jets are going to be there at the end, it's going to mean they've got 5 more wins. So I guess technically they would be ahead of Nashville. Bottom line is they got to run the table. And to your point out with the hockey gods, I agree with you about last year. The hockey gods took a good 2.5 months off for this team, in addition to them not playing very well from about November 1st to the 15th of January. It is funny. Connor brought this up yesterday on the program, and it kind of took it back that the Blues and Jets since the Olympic break have been the best 2 teams in the West. But it just goes to show you those losses in November and December count the same as the ones in the final 2 weeks of the season. And, when you go 11 without winning and put yourself in a situation like that, it is going to be a long, long road back. Sean, of course, the topic of today was Jonathan Toews being announced as the Masterton Trophy nominee from the Winnipeg Jets. Starting off as the 2C, it did not go well. It seems to be, he seems in a much more, a place that fits him right now. And I think has been playing pretty well. Had some really good stretches, some not so good stretches. How will you look back, regardless of what happens in these final 5 games, how will you look back at the 25-26 season with Jonathan Toews coming to the Winnipeg Jets?
Well, from a human element, and I asked a couple questions of him today from that human element. Like, this is a person who, like, something went wrong with his body and he didn't know what. And he didn't know how to figure it out for a lot of years and took some time off. And I think what happened here, regardless of whether he wins the Masterton, and we were talking about, who the other candidates will be that he's up against. And I noticed that last year, I believe Sean Monahan won it last year. Gabriel Landeskog is up for it. I think Gabriel Landeskog came back so late last year that he missed the nomination. He's going to be tough to beat in that, because basically you had to kind of create a path back. Like, no one had really followed the path back. And now Jonathan Toews is a similar thing, but this is just basically like your leg. You don't have a leg anymore. Let's reconstruct a leg and see if this will work and see if you can stick around. This, to me, it'll be tough for Jonathan Toews to win that award against Gabriel Landeskog, although there's going to be the Chicago factor in there. The Chicago media sways a lot of American votes. We saw that the year Panarin won the Calder Trophy over Jonathan Toews, and I felt like I saw a lot of advocating out of that market for Panarin, and that was very effective. It was like I was fairly new to the sports side of this, and I kind of saw how some of these awards work and like kind of the politicking that goes on behind the scenes here. Regardless, as a human being, I see this as him getting to a spot where, I think it's very good for him and very happy for him in life that he figured his body out again. Because if you can figure out your body to the degree that your body can go from not really working to handling the entirety of an NHL grind that you never have to step away from, that says a lot about where he is and about his future and his health. It doesn't change the fact that, I thought Jonathan Toews was going to come back, and I thought he was going to be a specific something. I said at the beginning of the year that I expected him to come back and get more than 50 points if his body held up. Well, his body held up, but the return of Jonathan Toews, the living legend, did not necessarily come back. Now, he's found a way to be extremely helpful in a lot of areas. That the faceoffs that he's been taking, those goals that I talked about, that the Jets have got all of these really, really important goals down the stretch here and would not be in the position they're in right now if Jonathan Toews isn't going out and not just winning, but cleanly winning and giving the Jets possession in a very strong way off the faceoff. They would not have had these goals on the way back. In Winnipeg, we're going to remember it. If he wins the Masterton, people are going to remember that. And, oh yeah, Jonathan Toews stepped away from the game and came back. So if his name gets on that trophy, it's going to be really helpful. But I think if we're being 1,000% honest with ourselves, Jonathan Toews, I'm sure, is happy he got back to play. But Jonathan Toews and superstar players don't know anything other than being superstars. And you could tell a guy like Wayne Gretzky walked away probably early, frustratingly for me at the time, because I thought I was going to see a guy hit 3,000 points. And that never happened because Wayne Gretzky couldn't stomach the idea of being a mere mortal. He couldn't stomach the idea of, I've been a superstar my entire life. I don't want to be just a guy playing. And for the most part, Jonathan Toews is not the Jonathan Toews that was legendary and is probably going to end up having a statue outside of the United Center in Chicago built for him because of the many things that he did. He's clearly not that anymore. I think for the most part in this market, he'll be remembered as a guy who came back, a hometown son, but this is going to be outside of the Winnipeg market, a forgettable season for Jonathan Toews, and it's going to be one of these scenarios where 5-10 years from now, people are going to look at Jonathan Toews and they'll see pictures of him in a Winnipeg Jets jersey, and it'll look weird to those people. It will look like Bobby Orr wearing a Chicago Blackhawks jersey. Like one of those things where people are like, oh yeah, I forgot he came back for that year, because for the most part, Jonathan Toews' ability to impact the game has been forgettable in this season.
We were kind of going over some pros and cons and situations of the future of Jonathan Toews, but from your perspective, will it be one and done? Should it be one and done? Or is there a scenario that makes sense for the Winnipeg Jets to consider bringing Jonathan Toews back for another season?
Well, it's a complicated question, because what are the Winnipeg Jets and what are they going to be? Are they going to be a team that tries to get back to what they were, but does so in a way where they prioritize youth? They've done that towards the end of this year, and it's worked somewhat. Jonathan Toews has worked himself down into a position where he's a 3rd/4th line player for the Winnipeg Jets. That's not bad to have. And Scott Arniel, I thought, said something that was interesting today, in that the Winnipeg Jets are a team that was challenged this year and had every kind of thing set up to give up. Like, this team could have very much said, this isn't our year, and waved the white flag and not been in the position they are right now, where they're at least making it interesting down the stretch. And he said Jonathan Toews has a lot to do that. So his leadership clearly put the Jets into a position where they are right now in this moment. The Jets, I would assume, are going to take a look at this year and say, hey, the way that we finished the year off, I think, says more about this team than the fall that we had. So we think we'll be back. We think we'll be a playoff team next year. They've got a certain window with, a lot of 33-year-old core players like Adam Lowry, Mark Scheifele, Connor Hrabchak on their team. So it's a little bit of a, how are the Jets going to approach this? I think they're going to feel like the time is now. And the question has to become, is Jonathan Toews going to help you in the now compared to what other players coming up are going to do? And then the other part of that is, it's not just on their part of it, it's Jonathan Toews. So my point about the Wayne Gretzky thing, does Jonathan Toews look at this year and think, this is great overall, I just want to stay and I want to continue doing this? Or is Jonathan Toews a guy who's like, this is great, my body held up, but I'm not sure that I can go on being just another player out on the ice? Hey, let's give him credit where it's due. One of the best face-off men in the game, and I kind of illustrated how that's affected the Winnipeg Jets. The psychology of a guy like Jonathan Toews, who has had championships on his stick at the Olympic level, at the Stanley Cup level. Is it okay to be just another guy on a team who contributes at the face-off circle and who contributes in the leadership part of things? I don't know the answer to that question. He said all the right things, but if I had to lean in one direction, I would lean that maybe Jonathan Toews has a victory in getting his body back, and that's the victory that will allow him to step away from the game.
Yeah, as I say, I don't pretend to know what he's thinking. If he wanted to come back, I think the only way it makes sense for the team is to do it at a much lower dollar value, and likely in a 4th line role. But I do have a lot of time that he can probably help the team situationally and still play at a certain level. And I think he'd be incredibly helpful for rookies and some of the younger players in the lineup. So Brad Lambert, a Danny Zhilkin, a Braden Yeager, if they're around those guys. But it's sort of a double-edged sword, Sean, because while that I don't think is in dispute, that you want young players like that around a guy like Toews to suck it all up and learn, you also don't want that player to be blocking their way of getting into the lineup.
Right.
And to me, the only way that works, and maybe works well, is if some of the other veterans off the team that even have contracts for next year aren't there. Vlad Nemestikov, Nino Niederreiter. I mean, it's very clear that this team needed to get younger and faster. And we've seen what's happened since the trade deadline with some of the players that have been in when those guys have been out. Like, I actually have time to consider running it back with Toews in a bottom six role as a mentor player and a guy that maybe doesn't play every night. But at the same point, the one thing that I think would nix it all is if it's expected to be an 82-game thing and the priority is playing him night after night after night ahead of some young guys that might bring a little bit more juice to the lineup like we've seen these young guys do in the past month.
I completely agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And I know I understand the idea of him blocking the path. One, I don't know how many guys are coming up and are ready for that. Like, okay, so this has worked out for the Winnipeg Jets, but does that mean you bring up 3 more young guys next year because you move on from those established players? And then what does that give you? What kind of timeline does that give you for the window that remains with that core that I talked about, who are all in the last year of their early 30s, about to enter their mid 30s? But I think there's a little bit of a interesting conversation in what you brought up there, because Huss, your show, our show, all of us together are going to have some really fascinating conversations toward the end of this season, because whether the Jets make the playoffs or don't make the playoffs, we've seen this surge towards the end that if you hadn't seen this surge, you could have looked at the team and said, this isn't working. We need to make drastic changes. There's going to be an ability here to look and say, well, we figured something out towards the end. And yeah, we fell flat on our face, but we think we can resume things going forward here. And part of what makes it confusing is, yes, they moved on from some established guys and they brought in some young guys, and now everything's working, right? Great, except for one thing. The Jets are still getting by because Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor are absolutely outstanding, and they're going out and winning games for the Winnipeg Jets. But the second line of Adam Lowry, Gabe Vilardi, and Cole Perfetti are adding a depth scoring that is getting them over the top. But the other part of it is it's just they've finally found their defensive game. And the thing that was a real head scratcher for me, Huss, is it's like, okay, well, they can play better defensively now because they're faster and these young guys have come in. Except Vlad Nemestikov and Nino Niederreiter come back in at the end of the season. They've been out for a while. They should be slow. And in that last game against Seattle, outside of the execution of Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, I think the biggest reason the Jets win that game is because Nemestikov and Niederreiter's line, along with a young player in Brad Lambert, go out and have this amazing game where they draw a bunch of penalties and they grind the opposition and they put goals in the back of the net. And so now we're in a situation where the old guys return to the lineup, and probably if you look at it from that perspective, that line, that older guys returning line, had a bigger impact than any of the young guys have had in a single game, and their line has had in a single game since they've been brought in here. So what is it? Is it the young guys? Is it the old guys? Did the Jets finally nail down their system? Is it the secondary scoring? It's not so simple. There's so many layers of what's happened here for the Winnipeg Jets that's given them success over the end of it. That at one time it looked really easy. Move on from the old guys, bring in the young guys. It's going to be that simple. And there's going to be people watching right now who are screaming at the TV and saying, that's exactly what it is. Don't you dare say for a second that it's not the youth who are getting this done. But to me, all of a sudden, it doesn't matter who the Jets have in the lineup. Depth defenseman, young guy, old guy, experienced guy, inexperienced guy, fast guy, slow guy. It's all working right now because they're all fitting into the system, and it makes it, to me, very, very hard to point at one specific thing that they need to do to get better for next year.
Yeah, you know what? I'll say this about the recent play of the team. It's definitely been better. I agree with you. The defensive structure has been better and more like we've seen in recent years. I still think it's presently constructed. Like, let's just say that, you know, they didn't blow all those games early on and they're 8 points higher in the standings and they're going to come in a wild card spot, you know, in the West. I still think they get massacred by the top teams in the West and the top teams in the division.
1,000%.
So I mean, like, listen, as a fan, would I love to put the whites on and get out and have the excitement of playoff hockey? For sure. But there's no argument that this team, even with the way they played recently, when you look at the body of work, the good, the bad of this season, has taken a precipitous drop from last year. And as they go into the offseason and are looking to turn that around, to me, it is getting younger, it's getting faster, it's having consistency on that second line, a whole bunch of things that do mean that there needs to be changes in probably a few other areas.
But at what cost, right? Like I hear what you're saying, and I've got no problem with that. I love the idea of bringing young guys up and making it happen. But what typically happens with that is it means you start doing that and you give yourself a couple of years before it fully locks into what you need it to be. And this is one of the things that's so tricky about this. What do you do when you lose 2 years of development? Let's say best case scenario, you bring up a bunch of young guys, you let a bunch of older guys go, and in 2 years, they get you to a place where you can really push and you can really challenge. Well, now Adam Lowry, Connor Hrabchak, Mark Scheifele, they're all 35 years old now, and you're starting up at that time. So I know what you're saying, but it's not as easy as that. It seems to me like it's a half measure, because you get a little bit younger and it probably costs you a little bit of time to get back to the top where you think you can contend. Or maybe you throw those ideas out. Maybe you just go and say, we're going to give this group an opportunity to be the best hockey team that they can be. We have no expectations of championships. Some people, that's like they'd spit on the ground if I said that, because if you're not going for the whole thing, what are you doing here? But it's a tricky situation the Winnipeg Jets find themselves in. Their core is older. There's a massive, massive chasm between their young guys and their old guys. It doesn't seem like it lines up properly. And I'll say this, Huss, you have him on your show all the time. David Pagnotta from the fourth period has heard things that I believe I heard Kevin Cheveldayoff say. I think the Jets are going to go and try and take a big swing to get this lineup back fast in the off season. And what tells me that is Kevin Cheveldayoff talked about that second round pick that they picked up for Logan Stanley. And he talked about how they seem to throw those around like they're worthless at this time of year, but they're hugely important at the draft. What I heard him say is we're using that pick and whatever else to go take a swing and try and get something big on the second line to add depth scoring. So I don't know about the idea of going with a bunch of young guys when you've got a GM and a core committed to winning right now. I just don't know that it lines up. This is a very tough Rubik's Cube that Kevin Cheveldayoff finds himself trying to navigate right now.
Well, as you mentioned, Ren, it's going to give us a hell of a lot to talk about, because I think the autopsy on this season is going to include management. It's going to include coaching. It's going to include personnel. It's going to include scouting. It's going to include the development staff. It's going to include the Manitoba Moose. And I don't think there is an area of this operation that is not going to be under the microscope.
Well, and there's a couple things. You take the Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, they're unimpeachable, right? The way that they've conducted themselves and played this year, they're unimpeachable. They've been big all year. They've been big in big games. They've been big. They haven't kind of lost themselves in the smaller games. To your point of everything you were bringing up, one of the weird things we'll be talking about, which we haven't had to talk about for a long time, is goaltending. Like, we need to break down what happened with Connor Hrabchak this year, because we haven't had to talk about goaltending for so long in the past. Is this a one-off? Is this a down year? Is it the team around him? It's a discussion we have to have, which we haven't had to have for a really long time, Huss.
No, listen, pal, always love having you on the program. Thanks so much for doing this. We'll look forward to KNR after the game tomorrow night in St. Louis. Have a good one, dude.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. There's Sean Reynolds. That segment brought to you by our friends at Toyota. If you're looking to dominate the ice, off the ice as much as your team does on it, check out the Toyota Tacoma. With the standard iForce engine boasting an impressive towing capacity of up to 6,400 pounds, it's the most powerful Tacoma ever. So whether you're hauling gear to the rink or heading to an away game, you can tackle it with ease. And the available panoramic multi-terrain view monitor gives you a live underfloor view to navigate even the toughest terrain easily. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days from March through May. It is Masters Week. My man, Jeff Fineberg, WST fan favorite, coming up next as the show continues. WST would like to thank our friends at Cleanline Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk throughout the Jet season. When we're doing the Winnipeg Jet lines, we do it with the gang at Cleanline, who are the leaders in Winnipeg residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services. Your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience. And like the captain, Adam Lowry has the back of his teammates, Cleanline has yours with 24/7 emergency services. So when you're in a jam at any time of the day, Cleanline has you covered. 204-500-2001 is the number. Write that one down, 204-500-2001 for 24/7 emergency services from the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. You can find out more online at cleanline.ca. Well, it's time to get ready for spring with our friends at Royal Sports, Winnipeg's sports superstore, family-owned and operated for over 50 years. And as we get the snow out of here, it is time to get back on the pitch. Royal is the soccer headquarters in town with more boots than you've ever seen. Not to mention great soccer merch from teams and nations around the world. Of course, we got baseball and slow pitch season coming up. They'll get you ready with gloves, bats, everything you need to dominate on it. Of course, they've still got hockey gear, snowboarding gear for those of you making the trip out for spring break, and the best selection of licensed merchandise for fans of the NHL, National Football League, NBA, and of course, Major League Baseball with Blue Jays season just around the corner. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. You got to see it to believe it. Get down there today and make sure to follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. We still do have plenty of games to get to for the Winnipeg Jets season, and with many on the road, no better place to get together with your gang to watch the squad than your local Boston Pizza. Ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and of course, Winnipeg Jets pick a player contest where you can win great prizes from BP every time the Winnipeg Jets score. So for the next game or the big game on the TV, head on down to Boston Pizza at your local BP location. Buckle up, and of course, if you are staying at home, you can get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, much more to come on WST, but first, a big shout out to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, we're going to get ready for the Masters right now with my pal Jeff Fineberg. Just quickly on our friends at BP, UFC is here a week Saturday. If you go to your local Winnipeg and area BP right now, you can enter to win a VIP UFC experience for fight night, which includes 2 tickets with premium seating, in-venue hospitality with UFC athlete experiences, and reserve access to the weigh-ins. And speaking of the weigh-ins, right after the weigh-ins at BP City Place on Friday the 17th, there'll be a UFC fighter meet and greet at Boston Pizza City Place, pictures and autographs with one of the fighters, UFC prizes, and loaded octagon pizzas on special. If you want to book a table for that, call Crystal at BP City Place, 925-4109. All right, it's time to get ready for Augusta, and we can't have Masters Week without a visit from Jeff Fineberg, who was the busiest man on the internet yesterday. Fineberg, how long was your Masters extravaganza yesterday, and how many guests did you have? Because it was awesome, and I realized I missed a good 2 hours of it doing our own show.
Huss, how's it going? You hear me all right?
It's going great, pal. How are you?
Okay, good. Just making sure. I was always sometimes paranoid with the audio. We went 4 hours, so that's like a standard day for you, isn't like a true radio veteran. That's nothing. Although we did not take a break. It was a guest every 10 minutes. It was like a little over 20 guests. Maybe it ended up being like 23 guests. A lot of prop bets, a lot of Masters talk. Everyone's excited, Huss. The course seems like, the weather looks great the whole week. They are going to be able to do whatever they want. By they, I mean, the fine folks at Augusta National, without the rain, they are going to just have this thing on whatever line they want to have it on, and that's pretty exciting. A firm and fast Augusta National. What more could you ask for?
Well, speaking of that, the course, I mean, the weather looks glorious. And as you mentioned, I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to prevent them from having it the way they want it. If this thing is firm and incredibly fast, is there a type of player that helps? Or is there a couple of players in particular that might be at an advantage over, the rest of the field and more, other years where it was a little bit more up in the air?
You know what, Huss? You could argue this both ways. So I'll present it to you, and then I'll tell you what I think. The fact that it's firm and fast, it means that the guys who aren't the longer drivers will still be able to hit it quite far, right? They'll get plenty out of it to be able to, get an advantage there. But it's just going to put a premium in ball striking. And in the end, I think firm and fast just means more difficult. And even though it's always pretty narrow at Augusta, I think the lane to something super long or surprising, it almost shuts it. It almost shuts it. If it's playing receptive and soft, you could see how, someone could come from the clouds and just go bananas. I don't know how that'd be possible on a firm and fast golf course.
Yeah, and this historically has been a tournament, at least in recent years, where we haven't had a lot of surprises. We look at the odds board, we see the guys with the short numbers, and those more often than not are the guys that are there at the end. I mean, for folks, I'm just going to pull up CoolBet here right now. So Scotty's the favorite at plus 550. Rahm is 10-1. Bryson's plus 1150. We've got Rory now at 13-1, Xander plus 1450, Ludwig Oberg plus 1550, and then Fitz 20-1, Cam Young 21, Tommy Fleetwood 22, Hideki has actually dropped to 25, and then Justin Rose at 30-1. What are the chances that the winner is not a guy that we just mentioned, and we're talking about a 30+1 Masters champion? Pretty small?
Pretty small, but there's a few. There's a few. And we can get to there, but you wouldn't go much further than that. I'd argue of all that, this could end up biting me, and you guys could sound clip it. Like Justin Rose 30-1 seems like the worst bet in the entire market. But you were right, Huss. Like, I think the average official world golf ranking of the last few winners has been pretty much about 5. It's like Rory, Scotty, Rahm, you name it. But when we first became friends and got to know each other, there was like a small handful of years where that next group really did rise. Danny Willett, despite the great futures, he went off at like 60-1 that week. Patrick Reed, Hideki Matsuyama, Sergio Garcia, I know I probably botched the order. They were all about, 35, 40-1. And then since then, it's been the absolute chalk. The just cream of the crop chalk. You mentioned Hideki tumbling. When I was recording on Monday morning, I mean, there's a lot of shorter numbers there from what they were a while ago, but I don't think anyone's quite dropped like Hideki's dropped. I'm pretty sure when I was doing the podcast with May on Monday morning, there was a 40-1. But that weather report came out, and, while he's not playing great, he's not in the greatest form. He's proven to be able to win with, no form. He's actually the only recent Masters winner to buck those trends. There's just very hyper-specific lead-in form trends, that you really can count on. Hideki, is the only one in the last 10 years who bucked them. And what makes him so attractive to so many people is you can count on the ceiling ball striking, and he can get up and down from Mars. And what I believe the firm and fast will require is people who do have the Augusta touch, who are familiar with this thing, who've had their reps, that sweet spot of you've played here at least between your 6th and 10th run here. Those are the guys Like, you will need experience, in my opinion, this week. I don't have Hideki Matsuyama as an outright bet, but when you mention firm and fast, what sort of, like, that's the sort of guy that, like, a lot of people have drawn attention to, coming from that, like, what a week ago would have been that second tier. He's parachuted in big time.
We'll get back to the favorites and where the winner's probably going to come from in a minute. But let me ask you this: of the group of 30 plus, do you have any outrights of guys in that group? I mean, I've got a couple Minwoo Lees from about a month ago at a much better number than the 35 is out right now. And I'll tell you what, with the history of lefties and how the way our guy Akshay has played this year, I was not going to miss out getting him. But beyond that, don't really have too much, but could be swayed. Do you have any action on that mid to long shot group that is we're talking about?
Okay, so I am in on Minwoo Lee. Like you, I've got sort of the better numbers in this week. These ones are sort of harder to swallow. Like Akshay, though, Huss, I'm worried. I don't have him. I'm worried you could be watching the Masters in a year, 2 years. I was early. I was just early, because they both just feel so prime to be that next generation of great Augusta players. Their game suited so well. Neither of them have really tested smoke in a major, which would be the concern when backing either of them this week, is they don't really have that in the, win or lose in them. But they're both so good, they could skip a step. But you're asking me, I'm not going to go too far above 30-1. Patrick Reed. I loved Patrick Reed this week, Hustler. You could take his Masters win off his CV and replace it with like a third place or something. He still would have the greatest CV, around at this place. I adore Patrick Reed. He's got multiple since he won 10th, 8th, 35th, 4th, 12th, 3rd. What are we doing here? I mean, he hasn't played in a bit. That is a concern. But what offsets that concern for me, Huss, is who has played in a bit. There's a couple of them, and good for them. Rory hasn't played in forever. Scotty's at the baby. The live guys, I'm more Rahm than Bryson. If, some people like them both. It's like Rahm by a mile for me if I had to choose there. They haven't teed it up in North America this year. Their last event was in South Africa. Cam Young hasn't played since the Players. So there's a consortium of guys at the very top who don't have their typical lead-in situation, which makes me easier to swallow Patrick Reed's untypical lead-in situation, because he's a member of no tours right now. He's already done well enough early on the year in Europe where he has his PGA Tour card for next year. Essentially, he's going to enter via their pathway system because he won twice. If Patrick Reed was on LIV, he's probably beating. He's right there with Rahm and Bryson. Every event, the way he was playing. So, I mean, whether you want to believe in the outright, that's fine. And I'm a sucker for Team Reed. And Huss, what's he going to do with 2 jackets? Augusta might not like this. He might give one to Justine.
Oh, for sure. And Justine, just so you know what, I got one already. Can you make that in a ladies small?
Yeah, ladies
I hope we get some tweets from you. I hope we get some tweets from Used Golf Facts. Been a little too quiet lately.
Yeah, there. He could be ready to roar. And you're above 50-1. You identified Baccia, and then there's 2 guys. I'm deciding between one of them. One of them might make Nikolai Højgaard, who it's a big ass, much like Baccia, but man, we're talking firm and fast. The guy is just doing everything right from a statistical standpoint. He's as consistent, as Tommy Fleetwood without the baggage. And Adam Scott. Last year it was Justin Rose, and a lot of people pointed to it and called it and saw that coming in. I missed it. This year, you don't want to fall into it, but like if you had to pick one, it's Adam Scott. And with, Tiger Phil, not actual serious threats, like Adam Scott's Augusta experience right now, he is head and shoulders the most experienced Augusta player with a iota of a chance to win still in the field. There's old guys, the seniors, what have you, but we're talking about guys that, don't have like 4-digit numbers.
Fineberg, last night was the champions dinner, and you mentioned no Tiger, no Phil, probably a little strange. I heard guys on Golf Channel saying this might be the pinnacle of Rory McIlroy's life. I mean, having that dinner last night. Everyone's talking about Rory and the dinner. I have heard almost nobody on Rory to win this tournament. Are you fading him like everyone else is right now? It is sort of crazy that you're seeing a 13 on a guy that's that good, that won last year. But, I mean, he's been there since Friday doing the chip and putt with the kids. And, I mean, it seems like there's a lot to it. No one seems to be giving Rory a chance. Do you?
So I'll be honest, Huss. I just sort of came into this opinion pretty much once I started thinking about next year's Masters that Rory had red ink. And I could eat my words, and I wouldn't be surprised. And if you haven't made bets yet and you see Rory's number continuing to get bigger because there's not much action on him in the marketplace because we're trying to play amateur psychologist, and it goes, you could make the case he's now like house money. The weight of the world is not on his shoulders. He doesn't have to fake that he doesn't care or that it's the most important thing. It's over. He got it. He's coming back for life. Grand slam. The flip side of that is guys just don't go back to back. Jack and Tiger did, and you could argue Rory belongs in there. But I think it just might next year. But you know how we joke sometimes when like the live players left and then they went back to majors and they went to the Masters. It's like, well, sort of a new normal for them. And Rory certainly didn't go to live, but he's like living a new normal this week. And maybe that can be very beneficial. He also hasn't played since the players, which you could think there could be back concerns because he always goes to Houston. So betting the guy to win is so hard. Maybe it's easier at the Masters, I'll concede. But, we're still trying to find reasons to not pick guys. And I think I had enough on Rory. Now, when you hear who I'm actually picking, you and your audience giggle away. Because, why would you pick that guy over Rory? Fair case. But I bet Xander Schauffele, Huss. He's got the seconds, the thirds, the top tens here. I mean, he's hitting the ball as well as anybody, almost as well as anyone on earth with the experience and the even tone game that I like. I got the 18s early in the week. Shout out to Coolbet, our friends. They were running a 27-1 boost. I'm sure you probably put something in your pocket, you and your friends.
That has been maxed out. Yeah, if you like Xander, like Jeff and I do, get to Coolbet in the exclusives. It's the PME boost. Xander up to 27-1, just about double what he's at on the market. And by the way, speaking of Pat, I just put in the chat the link because it's a little bit hard to find, but they're giving away $500, Fun Masters, head-to-head matchups. Just click on that link, go in, enter it over at Coolbet if you want to get in on that for another way to play the Masters. Yeah, listen, I love Xander. And I think for many of the reasons you mentioned, you want to talk about course history, experience, has won majors before. He's ticked off all of the boxes. And to me, seems in a better position than most of the other guys in that category to finally get across the finish line. And then maybe this is more of a heart pick, but I got to tell you, I got a lot of time for Tommy Fleetwood this week. Would I like a better number than 22? Probably, but I will still be backing our guy because let me ask you this. Would a Fleetwood win? Is that like last year, everyone was behind Rory and it was just incredible. I think Augusta National loved it. Tommy is such a gentleman, even though he's from across the pond. I think a Fleetwood win might be the most popular and well-received result of this year's Masters.
I mean, I'm probably the wrong person who could argue against a statement like that. I love the guy, Huss. So I came into the week with 3 futures: Cam Young, Minwoo Lee, Patrick Reed. I made one bet this week. It was on Xander Schauffele. I have tried. There are guys I want to bet. I've procrastinated. I've thought about it, gone through the ringer. I tried to not land on Tommy Fleetwood. I made a conscious effort to not. And you can laugh, and people who know me will be like, subconsciously, you were always going to be there. And maybe that's true. But I got there because I just didn't feel like betting Rahm. And I looked at that Ludwig number and said, if I didn't bet him last week to win the Valero Texas Open at 17, 18 to 1, why am I going to bet him to win the Masters at the same or shorter? Who we love, we think he could win 2 majors. I just fell back into this vortex for Tommy, Huss. So I haven't even put it out on the internet, but that's it. That's the guy. I've made 2 bets essentially this week: Xander Schauffele, Tommy Fleetwood. And yeah, so I'm in. And we can get to Canadian prop to save our life, okay?
Yeah, that's the listen, I love it. We ended up at the same place. I mean, obviously a few other long shots, but those are the 2 guys that I'm most excited about the potential of them winning at half decent numbers.
Top 20s. Corey Connor's top 20s are going to save my week, as they usually do at the Masters.
Hey, do you have a pick? I know you got a million props yesterday. Did you were you convinced on 1 or 2 from all the amazing guests that you had on?
Yeah, so it's all like a bit of a blur, and I'll give your audience the cheat sheet. Just go in there, hit the like button if you're going to watch it. And the last 5 minutes, I really read off everyone's bet. I read the whole spreadsheet. So I'll give you that nugget. The milk is for free at the back. My favorite bet, it was given by Chris Falica, the Bear. People might remember him from Game Day College and Fox Sports nowadays. He took the bet I was going to use, so I gave a different one. But it was still available, at least it might still be, at a very popular made-for-TV sports book. Zach Johnson, top senior, minus 104. I don't like Angel Cabrera. Zach Johnson finished second a week ago to Stuart Sink on the senior tour. It's almost like a head-to-head versus Cabrera. Weir, love ya, no chance, no cut, cut. Olazabal, this probably his last one. Goner. This is what I like. I really, really like it, Huss. Also on Boccia top lefty. But yeah, we can talk about that's over 2 to 1. I'm sure you like that. Well, we got to beat Bobby Mack there. We can do it.
I'm just looking at I got Coolbet up. It's even money on Zach Johnson, top senior at Coolbet, plus 100.
Get in there. Get in there. Read me hold on. Who's Zach competing with? I should know, but remind me.
Okay, so here it is. Here's the top senior senior board. Zach Johnson plus 100, Cabrera 3 to 1, VJ and Freddie Couples 7 to 1, Weir 7 to 1, Olazabal 14 to 1. Is that going to be an appliance bet?
No appliance. I don't want to. I enjoy the Masters too much. I don't want to be in a pissy mood at the end of Sunday. Everything's responsible.
Also,
but
yeah,
one other top senior.
Any thoughts on top debutante? Just to finish up, I've been following this Pingy guy, and he's had some real nice results. I got him at just under 10 to 1. He's actually dropped to plus 975. Gotterup was 4 to 1. He's now 5 to 1. Bridgman's leading the FedEx. He's plus 620. Ben Griffin 8 to 1. Did you have a lean or a feel on any of those guys for the top rookie?
So I'm okay to fade Gotterup. So I like the board here, and I would argue, Huss, this has probably become the most fun market the Masters has. I think it's like
Great.
as fun a
It's all
market
guys
as
that-
there is.
None of them were playing.
Yeah, a lot of like high talent players there too. I love Marco Page. I wouldn't even dispute like Sam Stevens could be sneaky. Like there's a lot going on here, but I like your call of Page. He's got the highly ceiling for me. He might be my favorite. Bridgman, boy, oh boy. If he wasn't a debutant, we could be having a longer conversation. Because the way that he can get around the greens, like you win at Riviera, the approach play, what a beautiful player. But Sam Stevens, Marco Penge would be my picks in the market.
So it's Penge, it's not Pengy. I've been butchering his name all week.
Yeah, no,
Penge.
Yeah, Marco Penge. He's such a great player. Like any number, Huss, for Marco to win in Mexico in a few weeks in like that Goober field.
I'm jumping on him for the top debutante. It should be fun. Gang, if you want to get in on the extravaganza that Jeff had, or just get the Coles notes at the end, when you're on YouTube, go to the Hammer. Or just put in the Hammer Betting Network. It'll take you there. Actually, after we're done, I'll throw a link up in the chat and get over there. So much
Appreciate
good
it.
stuff. So many great characters. And you know what I'll do? Speaking of you and all the great characters, want to give a shout out to our guy, Cam Stewart, who I saw he's been in the hospital, has had a surgery dealing with some stuff. And he would be probably the unquestioned most popular guest. You could have 100 of them and Cam would still be number one. So we're all thinking about him, and I hope he's able to enjoy the Masters and get back to making everyone laugh their asses off with Pat, you, and the rest of the gang over at Mayo's Network.
We love you, Cam. Hope you're doing well. Get well soon. And I gotta say, listen, God bless. Hope. Let's be lighthearted for a moment. What a goddamn plus EV move, Huss. What a plus EV move. To like come home, say from like the hospital on a Wednesday of Masters week and be told to take it easy, lie down, don't move, don't do anything. Have people, loved ones want to take care of you and bring you food. What? I mean, I'll talk to him when we get back on air, but I don't know. Says plus EV to me.
He's gonna. Hopefully he is enjoying it and in good spirits. But we're thinking about him right now. Listen, thanks so much for coming on. It was awesome yesterday, gang. If you want your crash course with an incredible array of guests, get to the Hammer Betting Network, and Fineberg's Masters Extravaganza is up from yesterday. Xander and Tommy, let's will it into existence. Jeff, have a great one. We'll talk to you over the course of the weekend, pal.
Love you, Huss. All the best. Everyone, all the above average dads, below average dads. Like, you earned this weekend, okay, dads? Take advantage of it. Let's go.
There it is, our guy, Jeff Fineberg. You can follow on X at GFineberg17. And again, head on over to the Hammer for Fineberg's Masters Extravaganza, which truly was an extravaganza. We've got a little bit more. We've got some Jonathan Toews audio, so we are going to get to that. But again, the link over at the Cool Bet, I see Eagle Eyes said I'm not eligible for the Masters Pool. That might be like a geo-blocker location. Fire him a DM. They might be able to help you out with that. The customer service is elite, or do that right on the site. And don't forget, gang, tonight, Eagle Eyes, I hope I'll see you there. We got poker tonight over at Cool Bet, 8 p.m. Again, you just go in, click on the poker, get into tournaments, and search WST. $100 bounty on my head, $100 bounty on Jeff Hamilton's head. And that is live at 8 p.m. tonight. We will see you there. We are going to hear from Jonathan Toews coming up in just a moment on his Masterton nomination. But first, a quick thanks to our WST sponsors. Do want to thank our friends at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge for their great support of WST. Of course, if you are thinking of a incredible fly-in fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. Aikens Lake is the spot, and as incredible as the world-class fishing is, the scenes and the hospitality at Aikens Lake might even top that. Check out aikenslake.com for availability and options remaining for the 2026 fishing season. And make sure to tell Pitt when you're talking to him that the boys at WST sent you. And it is great to have our pals at Breezy Bend back. We got snow on the ground. It is not entirely, we're not ready to swing them just yet, but we will be, folks, very, very soon. And if you're looking for a long-term home at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, Breezy Bend Country Club is the spot. Beautiful course, incredible clubhouse renovations, course renovations over the last 10 years. Of course, they hosted the Manitoba Open. And for my money, the best greenskeeping crew and maintenance crew in the province. They're getting us ready for the upcoming season. We will see all of you out at Breezy Bend coming up this year, hosting the senior as well, which should be a big event a little bit later on. breezybend.ca for more information on that. All right, yes, the Breezy Bend leaderboard is back, and what a better weekend to get it going again with the Masters. Usually by now we're getting a little bit closer to golfing than we are right now, but I think in a couple of weeks we should be good. That we didn't get too much snow. It's melting when it hits the ground, and we do have some double-digit temperatures coming up in a minute. Let's get Connor Hrabchak back in here. Connor, I didn't get a chance to ask you. I mean, have you settled in on who you got in the Masters?
I thought you were going to ask me about the weather and how disappointed I am that there's snow on the ground and we can't be golfing ourselves. But no, I don't know in terms of that. I subscribe more to the thought that you were bringing up with Jeff, and obviously in our Masters preview earlier in the week, that the winner is going to come from those top 5, top 7, top 10 guys in terms of odds. I know you're all big on Xander Schauffele finishing top 5 and winning the whole thing. But I like what Jeff brought up about Rory. I mean, the conversation about Rory for years has been, wow, he can't win the Masters. Mm-hmm. And then it's just been, he's blown up on the holes and like late on round 4 and all of that stuff. And maybe that weight is off his shoulders now. I do, there's the amateur psychology, as he put it. There's so much going on this week for him with the dinner, and he's been there. And is he going to be distracted? I think it's going to be a weight off his shoulders. So I'll be boring, I guess, maybe, and say Rory goes back to back. Why not?
Well, it's not too boring because I've yet to meet anyone else that's on that. And the more we've gotten closer to the tournament, I'm sitting here going, is this going to be the ultimate moment where everyone's horny for all these other guys, and the guy staring us right in the face wearing the damn green jacket is going to get another one? Wouldn't be surprised if it happened. But I mean, as I said, 13-1 on Rory compared to what he was last year, what he normally would be. Seems like everyone's buying into the narrative that he won't contend, and I think that is a little dangerous. Listen, we spent a lot of time earlier in the show talking about Jonathan Toews' season and the future, but of course today was all about his nomination for the Masterton Trophy. Appreciate Connor while we were talking to Jeff chopping some of this up. Let's hear a little bit from Jonathan Toews. Here he was earlier today speaking about receiving the Masterton nomination for his team.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those things. I'm sure the other guys that are up for the award would probably agree that it's not why you do this sort of thing. And, ironically, I guess it's you always appreciate any form of recognition or positive reinforcement. So it's an honor that, I'm happy to accept. But, it's obviously been very challenging for the last little while leading up to this season. So, I think it's just at the end of the day a good reminder that it's an honor to play in this league and to play this sport at the highest level. And it means a lot to me. So it means a lot to a lot of other people out there. So it's been a special year. A lot of learning, a lot of growth, but I'm thankful for it all.
All right, so there's Jonathan Toews on the nomination. And here's one more from Toews. He was asked about, when he looks at this season, what he's most proud of or the biggest badge of honor from making it back to the National Hockey League and playing as much as he has.
I guess probably playing in every game so far. Like I said, I think, we've had a lot of injuries. It's been a really challenging year in that sense too, that like I said the other day, like you could be, mid to late 20s, best shape of your life, and it's still a really tough year, and the recovery is not easy. So obviously coming into this season with having missed the last 2 years, there was quite a few adjustments, and to be able to stay healthy on that level and to just keep pushing through on days when you're really not feeling great. I'm happy about that, so knock on wood, try and stay healthy. I think through thick and thin, just in trying to work on my game and do the best I can every day to help this team, regardless of where I am in the lineup or what that looks like. So, I've been really just happy to be in this locker room and getting to know these guys and becoming a little bit bigger part of the team every single day, or feeling like I belong a little bit more every single day. So I love this group. We got great leaders and just great character guys in this room. So hopefully keep that going. We're right there. We've never lost belief all along, and I think right now we're playing our best hockey. So it's a lot of fun to be a part of it.
All right, so there's Jonathan Toews. And Connor, it's it is amazing, really with what he's gone through. And the way he's looked at times this season, that he has been able to be there for the team every single game this season. I mean, that's difficult, as he mentioned, at the best of times in the prime of your career, to be able to come back and do that. And, I'll be honest, listening to him in those quotes speak today, I don't know. And this is just, I'm listening to it and reacting in real time. But I have to admit, this doesn't seem like a guy that's really reflecting back on it was nice to come back for a year. Like, if I had to bet today, whether it's Winnipeg or whether it's somewhere else, I think that we have not seen the last of Jonathan Toews. And, he'll get the Masterton Trophy nomination, obviously, which came out. But next year, whether it's here or elsewhere, I do think that there'll be a continued attempt to stay in the National Hockey League for number 19.
Yeah, and on the Masterton, it'll be interesting to see if he's a finalist and if he maybe even wins the award. And Sean Reynolds earlier on was talking about Landeskog and how there's obviously a ton around the league of good nominees when it comes to their respective teams. But Toews, with what he went through, the battle to come back to the NHL, it's absolutely within the realm of possibility that he finishes in the top 3 or maybe even wins the award. And I feel like, we're here on the day-to-day, we're analyzing the games, and we can talk earlier in the year about how Toews, didn't look great at second-line center, and he looked better coming out of the holiday break and out of the Olympic break and all of this stuff. And we could talk about next year, but what we can't do is diminish the path. And I'm not saying we have done this, but we need to recognize the path that it took for him the last 2 years to get back to this level. And he said it himself, what the badge of honor, why do you think you're up for this award kind of thing? He said it's the games played. The fact that he's been there for his team every night is absolutely a badge of honor that he should be proud of, given what he went through and the time away from the game. And Kyle Connor as well, I didn't clip this, but he mentioned, like, if Kyle Connor, he was speaking for himself. If I took time off for 2 years and came back, I don't even know if I would make it through the full season. So for Jonathan Toews to do it is impressive for sure.
If you can, Adam, let's go to the Scott Arniel, and we'll get number 5. I'll cue this up in just a second. Arniel and Toews being nominated for the Masterton, but just on that, the respect and the thing that he said at the end about, every day I'm feeling more like I'm a part of this team. Listen, it's going to be, conversations, discussions, I'm sure, after the season. Be an interesting final weekend, or I'm not sure when they do, if they don't make the playoffs, when they do locker clear out, because of course the UFC is in town on the Saturday. So it could potentially be the next day, right after the game, Friday, April 17th. And I guess we'll find out at that point. But I mean, none of this is going to be answered for a while. But, hearing from Jonathan Toews today, I still have a feeling that there still is a desire to try to stay playing in the National Hockey League, whether it be Winnipeg, which is probably his first choice, or somewhere else. But let's hear from Scott Arniel. Arniel started off by being asked about Jonathan Toews getting that Masterson nomination. Here's the Jets head coach.
I think it just goes to, to all the work that he's put in the last couple of years to try to get back and play. And, he's a pretty dedicated guy away from the rink and, really looks at a lot of things when it comes to his body and, everything that's happened since COVID. And so to come back and be able to, to participate in the NHL, it's a hard thing to do. But on this season with the craziness of the schedule, he's found a way to, get himself ready for every game. And, it's a good honor for him to be recognized for that.
All right, so there's Scott Arniel. Here's another one on Toews. He was asked about where, from the head coach's perspective, as to where Jonathan's had his biggest impact.
A little bit of everything, but to me, I remember the face-off dominance. Don't know if I've been around. I had a couple of good players over the years, but I don't know if I've ever seen a guy that can do what he does, both forehand, backhand, against big guys, against quick guys. It's special to see, but also at his age, and what he's gone through in the last few years and be able to, play the 77. He's dedicated. He's in the weight room all the time. He's always looking after himself. And just, I think that just, for him, he put an awful lot of, work into this, and he wasn't sure how this was all going to play out. And, I think just for the league to recognize it and us to recognize it, I think that's great for him.
All right. He, as I say, you talk to the different players. I'm sure we'll get to that at the end of the season, talking about the fact, but I still do. I mean, there's on the ice, there's in the face-off circle, there's in the room, there's in the organization, and there's also with what impact he can have with some younger players. And I think that is going to be a real key part of the discussion, how this team looks next year, and what his role is, if they do decide to go down that road and attempt to come back. If we can, Adam, let's just skip to the last one. This is number 8, and this is more just about the way this team is hanging in, albeit with pretty faint playoff hopes. Here's Arnie on just what he's learned about the group down the stretch.
Yeah, guys have done a fantastic job of focusing from that Olympic break to now. And I know it's easy to say focus on ourselves in one game, but I can't stress enough how our leadership group, our whole team as a group has stayed focused on what we can control, and what they've even when it's been a loss or we haven't gotten help when we've won, and those are things that just let's move on to our next situation until that check mark is either for us or against us. We just got to keep playing. That's our job. That's our responsibility. It's not like, okay, yeah, tough us. It's not available. Let's just quit. Let's not play 82 games. But this group recognizes that they have a responsibility to play till the very end, and so I'm proud of them for doing that. We're not done yet. I mean, I came out of my chair last night when Colorado won, and I almost threw something through the TV when the other scored in Anaheim. So this is, for all of us, it is a mental roller coaster. It really is, and it's just, as much as you say you don't want to look at it, I've tried. I thought, okay, if I watch games, maybe that'll help. And then I won't watch games and look at the scores the next morning. So I don't know. I don't know where to go with it, but the players are doing the same thing.
I had to laugh at that because he's just like the rest of us. I mean, literally, it's out of everyone's control. I mean, and that's been the case for the better part of the last number of weeks with the Winnipeg Jets. But I will agree with him, and this is why, and we'll spend more time talking about this tomorrow. That 12 months or 50 weeks or so since that epic series between the Jets and the Blues in round 1 of last year. Both are likely not going to the playoffs. But when these teams face off tomorrow night, as you pointed out, the two best teams in the West since the Olympic break, and two teams that, despite being way, way out of it, have shown no signs of quit. And certainly from Arniel's perspective, that is something I think that the head coach needs, but also very important to the culture of the group, that, they didn't just check out for the rest of the season, which I think you've seen some teams in the NHL do exactly that.
You know how big of a concern that would be, Huss? That would be like topic number 1 on this show every single day. If like all of these guys just checked out and like you could see that the effort wasn't there. And again, for younger teams that are tanking or they're maybe early in their rebuild, like Chicago, if Chicago has a night where they quit as a group, I mean, whatever, they're not contending. But like this team has Scheifele, Connor, Morrissey, Hellebuck. Like the expectation with those players in your lineup, in your core, is that you're going out and you have a job to do. You're trying to win every night, all of that stuff. So I agree. I think Scott O'Neill nailed it. And it is a credit to the Winnipeg Jets that they haven't completely rolled over and quit, because like I said, I think that would be topic number one and the absolute biggest concern if that was the case.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Listen, we've gone a little long, but we've just only got 3 games. We'll get to the cool bet lines in a minute, and a final reminder for the pools that we've got. But right now, just going to do a quick visit in with Jamie Campbell from the Winnipeg Rec Hockey League, because the Hockey Manitoba Cup, which has been so popular with rec leagues, is no more. But there is a big tournament coming up at the end of next month that if you are a beer league or a rec hockey league player, you'll want to know about. That's right now on WST. All right, this is a segment geared towards all of you beer leaguers who probably finished up your season. Maybe some of you aren't doing summer hockey, but you want one more kick at the can. And big tournament being put on by the Winnipeg Rec Hockey League at the end of May that you're going to want to find out about. Let's bring in Jamie Campbell to get the 411 on it all. Jamie, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's good to have you on the program. It's been really cool to see how you guys have grown, and obviously working with the Jets and the Iceplex. And I can tell you, we in the past have worked with the Hockey Manitoba gang for a number of years on the Hockey Manitoba Cup, which was so successful. That tournament doesn't exist anymore, and you guys have sort of tried to fill the void with an awesome end of season tournament for rec league teams of all skill categories.
Yeah, absolutely. It's unfortunate that Hockey Manitoba wasn't able to continue with the tournament this year for various reasons. Personally, I've been involved with Hockey Manitoba Cup for probably the last 15 years on looking after the officials and obviously staying connected with the WRHL. So we just took that as a golden opportunity to help promote our league, to help put on a great adult hockey tournament like it's been happening for the last 15 years. And we just saw this as a golden opportunity for, hey, let's just do our own tournament now and give the teams something that they want. Like you said earlier, end of the season, one last kick at it.
So give us the details. I mean, it's at the end of May, the 29th to the 31st, open to all skill levels. And I'd imagine all teams. I mean, you guys have a big league, but there are teams that play in other leagues too. All are welcome for this. So what do people need to know about it?
Yeah, so, that is a great thing. This isn't a Winnipeg Rec Hockey League only tournament. We are over 60% sold out as of today. We have a team that's coming to us from Dryden. We have a team that's coming to us from Yorkton. We have teams within our own league. We have teams in other leagues. This is just open to all adult hockey players. Men and women's divisions will be put together and all different skill levels. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm glad you mentioned the women's side of things. I mean, working with the Hockey Helps the Homeless, it just blew my mind how active the women's hockey community is. And we certainly saw that on display at the PWHL event that took over and sold out Canada Life Center. Women's division will be in effect for this one. I mean, what do the women need to know for it, especially if they haven't played in the league before?
Yeah, well, the Winnipeg Rec Hockey League does not have a women's division. That's one of our dreams, is always to create one. And the word is getting out more and more. Hopefully this tournament will help us get to that level in the league itself. As of right now, we have 5 teams registered for the women's division, with a 6th supposed to be registering this week. There will be various skill levels there. Really, just like anyone else, all they need to do is go to the Winnipeg Rec Hockey League website. They will see a link that will take them to tournaments, and just a couple of clicks of the button. That's just how easy it is to get all the information you need pertaining to the tournament and to get your teams registered.
Now, the dates on this is May 29th to May 31st. You guys will be playing 3 12-minute periods, which is pretty standard. Guaranteed 3 games, but there is a playoff opportunity. Fill us in on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in most tournaments, it's always like a minimum of 3 games. And then as you go further into it, like you lose twice, you're out. You move on into the next round and per se there could be teams playing 5 or 6 games, depends on the size of the division, and whether they make it to the championship game or not.
Now, folks, if you want more information on this, I mean, just go to winnipegrechockeyleague.com. You'll see it right on the main page. It's Manitoba Spring Invitational. But right now, for people that want to reserve their spot, Jamie, you mentioned you're already at 60%. I think that with the long success of the Hockey Manitoba Cup, if people don't know about this, they're going to want to get in. How do people reserve their spots? What do they need to do now to make sure they're in the tourney at the end of May?
Yeah, you nailed it already. They just need to go to the website. They need to follow the links to get their team registered. The requirement is to put down a $150 deposit to secure their spot. The one great thing with our systems is the team manager doesn't necessarily have to collect all the money from their team unless they want to. Individual players who play on a team, Andrew, if you're playing on a team, you can just go to the website and make your own contribution to cover your fees. So we make that very easy for all the teams. But again, go to the website, click the buttons, get their team registered with a $150 deposit, and they're on the list.
Oh, and one other thing we should mention, I don't know if I did at the start, but this is all at the Hockey for All Center. I mean, what an awesome facility to have this. The rinks are all there, the tournament put together. You can have a couple afterwards or a bite to eat. And I imagine that's also a nice selling feature of the event, knowing that you're not going to be ripping all around the city. It's all at one place at, one of the best facilities in the city.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing that up. You nailed it on that one as well. You're pretty good at this. We have partnered up very well with the press box upstairs. Our goal is to keep everything in-house, so we will be using 3 to 4 rinks throughout the tournament. There will be Player of the Game awards that will send people upstairs to get a free beverage for being a player of the game. We're really working closely with upstairs, the press box, to keep everything in-house. They're going to stay open until midnight on Friday and Saturday, which is really good. Like you said, for those who want to go upstairs to have a couple of pops and a plate of nachos and some chicken wings. One thing that I would like to add into this, to make the environment so much fun, there is an adult ringette hockey tournament, a small one, that will be happening in Hockey for All at the exact same time. So that just brings out a good variance of individuals that'll be there socializing together. So, there'll be a good mixture of males and females. It just makes it so much more fun in that type of environment.
Well, that's awesome. And hopefully we'll see a full tourney, both with men's teams and women's teams. Again, registration is open right now. Go to winnipegrechockeyleague.com. It's the Manitoba Spring Invitational, the 29th to the 31st of May. But you can reserve your spot in the tournament with the deposit right now. Jamie, good luck with the event, and thanks for popping by WST.
Thank you so much for having us. All the best to you guys. Have a good one.
Good luck. All right, good stuff, and good luck to all the teams in there. Connor, I'm just seeing the chat certainly still doing their part today with a little bit of a longer show. Comment wondering, any update from the coach on Elias?
Not today, but yesterday he did say still not skating, still feeling better by the day, but not at the point yet where he's hit the ice. Like we saw Morgan Barron skating on his own, and then quickly he joined the team. Barron did, but nothing further than that today. No.
T. Will with a few zingers today. How about this one? The Masterton Trophy is for perseverance and dedication. I think the winners should be Jets management for playing Nyquist for 70 games. Unbelievable perseverance.
That is
T. Will is on his game today. I will say that. All right, listen, let's just quickly get over to Coolbet before we finish up the festivities today. Listen, Masters, we've spent a lot of time talking about it. Great segment with Jeff. Odds are up right now. I am going to jump on a couple first round leaders. Xander Schauffele 29-1 for the first round leader. I will get a piece of Justin Rose at 35-1. He always seems to have great opening rounds. And certainly that was the case last year. And you can get much bigger numbers. I mean, Xander's plus 1450 to win the tournament. It's 29-1 for the first round leader. So those markets are up. They got specials, they got groups. There's even a whole specials like this. I've never seen this before. But for the first round, we can bet the closest to the pin on 16, on 12, on 4. So those are some fun ones too. Anyways, there's no shortage of options for you. Now, if you look in the chat, we did do a free office pool for the group. You can see the pinned tweet at the bottom. That's the Pat Mayo one over at CoolBet. They're giving away $500, also free to get in. So click on that link. And one more time, I will get, here is our link, copy link address, and I will throw this in WST Masters Pool. Paste. Click on that.
And that one's just on office pools, right?
Yeah, it's just on office pools. We'll get a prize or two for the top finishers. But even if you're not making a bet or anything on it, pick your guys. It's a real simple box pool. Office pools is great for doing that sort of stuff. So it is all set up. And here you can see the one that Pat's got it. This is real interesting. What you do is you just predict the scores of all of the guys in the matchups for the first time for the round, and you'll be able to go back in there throughout the weekend and add to it. So will give us lots to do over the next few days. As far as tonight, it's a slower night in the NHL. I kind of talked about this on the Lock Shop with Iwanek today, but we've got 3 games. Buffalo, looking to take the lead in the division, is in New York to take on the Rangers. Rangers have actually played quite well as of late once they've been done. But the Rangers are plus 121. Buffalo's minus 143. The Caps feel like the lock of the night, minus 154 in Toronto against the Leafs. Did I tell you the Protas brothers playing together?
Yes.
6'6", 6'6", with Tom Wilson at 6'2". Craig Berube is going to he might have, like, you know, those eyes when you look at the girl you've been in love with the whole time. Like, that's the way Craig Berube is going to be looking at that line tonight. Oh, yeah. Dreamy Berube eyes. And then last game on the docket is the Oilers and the Sharks. This game does have playoff implications. Of course, the Sharks are still right in the mix, and they've got an extra game in hand. They desperately need to win that game in hand. That one is tonight. Sharks are even money. Oilers, who I'm really pissed off at blowing that game last night, cost me 2 really nice tickets. The Oilers are minus 118. And as far as the baseball goes tonight, they're already underway. I forgot that was getaway day today. So it's 1-1, Dodgers and Jays. We'll have something to watch right after the show. Just a few late night games today. Reds, Marlins, Cubs, Rays. That one's basically a pick 'em in Tampa. Athletics and Yankees. Yankees a big favorite, and the Tigers favored in Minnesota against the Twins. And again, left corner, if you click on that PME weekly boost, you'll see that 27-1 number on Xander Schauffele. I'm in on that, and he's got another one. Siwoo, Harris English, Spieth, and Akshay all to make the cut at plus 260. Going to be a fun one tonight. We got poker at 8 p.m. Hope to see you there. Again, going to the poker side on the site, into tournaments. Search WST. We'll be going live at 8 o'clock p.m. Good luck to all of you in getting the $100 bounty on my head and Jeff Hamilton's. And then, Connor, we're back at it tomorrow with Murata Tesh, who will join us. We're going to have a segment on the GoFundMe for our guy Wayne in Regina, who's hosted Bomber fans for 20 years, as well as some info on the 1930 Crew Tour next week, or coming up for Labor Day, and a whole bunch more. So it should be fun. And then definitely a loser leaves town match by definition between the Blues and the Winnipeg Jets, but two teams that have been going hard, so it should be a good one tomorrow night. Thank you as always, Connor. Love doing the show with you. Thanks to Jamie who popped by. Thanks to Fineberg. Go check out his marathon Masters extravaganza over at the Hammer Network from yesterday. And of course, big thanks to Sean Reynolds. And of course, our guy Adam Smitsniak, who is holding it down for Michael Remus while Remo is away. That is going to do it for us. Thanks to all of our sponsors that make the show happen each and every day, and all of you for hanging out with us. This has been Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great night. Get those Masters picks in the pools and your bets, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll also have a Masters update with Pat Gregoire tomorrow. I can't wait for the show. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. right here on WST.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.